Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 8 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, this 29th day of July, and it's rainy and cool. I mean, it's very different. I think I got 76 degrees in Nashville right now, and so we got a lot of stuff to cover here. I mean, I think the president, the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, lame duck that he is, angry lame duck that he is, apparently is going to be in Texas, and he's going to talk about reform of the Supreme Court. And I'm going to talk to you about how that's not a concern now, but it is a concern if Democrats were to somehow take over the House and Senate and hold on to the White House. So that's, right now, I wouldn't think about it twice. But, I mean, elections have consequences, and if it goes badly, that's one of the first things they will do. It seems to me. We'll talk about that, and then we'll also talk about some stuff that has to do with the border concerns. We'll talk about January 6th. There's a fascinating new report out. Virtually no one is talking about with regard to that. But I want to start out with the latest on the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. We're getting a tremendous amount of new information, and perhaps the best information is coming from a really good investigative reporter who happens to work for ABC News by the name of Aaron Katersky. You hear him on our radio all the time because he follows a lot of reports through the ABC network that we carry. That's the way we get some of our national news, for better or for worse. That's what we get it. And Aaron Katersky, though, has gone out and talked to a lot of people who were on that Beaver County SWAT team in Pennsylvania the day of the assassination attempt. And this is, I've edited this down a little bit for time, but it's pretty fascinating what those members of the SWAT team have to tell us about the coordination with the Secret Service, or I really should say the lack thereof. So bear with me. I think you'll find this very interesting. Here is Aaron Katersky talking to members of the Beaver County SWAT team that were there that day.
This Pennsylvania SWAT team took up positions in defense of the former president at his rally. They saw the shooter first, recognized him as suspicious, and took steps they thought would have prevented the attempted assassination. Now they're living with failure.
I remember standing in the parking lot talking to one of the guys, and we just became part of history. Not in a good way.
The SWAT team from Beaver County, Pennsylvania knew something about the scrawny young man seemed off. He can be seen in this video obtained by ABC affiliate WTAE skulking around former President Trump's rally. Text messages between local snipers show they noticed Thomas Matthew Crooks at 4:26 p.m., nearly 2 hours before the attempted assassination that would injure Trump, kill a man, and severely hurt two others. By 5:14 p.m., they grew suspicious.
He was looking up and down the building and just wandering around, and it just seemed out of place.
Greg Nichols snapped photos of the shooter.
We had a text group between the local snipers that were on scene. I had sent those pictures out to that group and advised them of what I noticed and what I'd seen.
What do you think is transpiring once you send in what you've sent in?
I assumed that there would be somebody coming out to speak with this individual, or, find out what's going on.
So how do you know if Greg's concerns about Crooks are being relayed properly?
We don't. We have to assume that when he put that information out to command, that command took that information and did something with it. We don't know if they did.
None of the concerns appears to have reached members of Trump's Secret Service detail. The Washington Post reports they've complained they were never made aware of the warnings. In their first public comments about the assassination attempt, members of the Beaver County SWAT team described to ABC News what they consider to be failures of planning and communication that would prove catastrophic.
We were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. So I think that was probably a pivotal point where I started thinking things were wrong, because that never happened, and we had no communication with the Secret Service.
You had no communication with the Secret Service at all on that Saturday?
No, not until after the shooting, I believe. Yeah.
And by then?
It was too late.
The Secret Service declined to respond directly, but told ABC News the agency is committed to better understanding what happened and is offering complete cooperation with ongoing investigations.
The suspect is directly above us.
Members of the Beaver County SWAT team rushed to the shooter's rooftop.
There's a ladder right here.
as seen in footage from Rich Gianvito's helmet camera.
Thanks, brother. Yep. So we had access through that ladder, got up onto the roof.
And as you're scrambling onto that roof, you don't know for sure whether he's dead or alive, or whether you'll encounter fire.
At that point, no.
So what are you prepared? Are you prepared for a firefight at that point?
Well, we're prepared for anything at that point because at this time we're unsure.
Give me a solid perimeter. Get guys prepped to clear the building.
He encountered the shooter's bloodied body some 400 feet from the stage. The team believes it did everything it could have to thwart the attack, but accepts its share of failure.
I think we all failed that day.
How so?
Life is lost.
Yeah. People died. And if there's anything that we could have done to stop that, we should have done.
We visited the SWAT team at its headquarters in western Pennsylvania, where they've been studying maps, satellite footage, even their own crude replica of the rally site. They're racing to learn everything they can because former President Trump has said he plans to hold another rally soon out there in western Pennsylvania.
So that's pretty interesting stuff, that they weren't in contact with the sniper team. They had no contact with the Secret Service. Now, it's beginning to sound, in my estimation, an awful lot like the situation that we learned about after 9/11. A lack of communication between organizations. All of the communications channels were siloed. In other words, you couldn't, the different agencies there on the scene could not talk to one another in real time. This is also being examined by Senator Ron Johnson, who spoke on Fox News Sunday. He's doing a lot of investigating on his own and will actually be a part of a Senate investigation into what went wrong.
Well, first of all, most of the information we have obtained is from local law enforcement. I appreciate the acting director briefed the Senate Judiciary and Homeland Security committees on Thursday, only for an hour. He'll be testifying before a joint committee hearing on Tuesday, and he has an awful lot to explain. He did say in that briefing that he can't defend what happened in Butler. I don't think anybody could. There were reports that the snipers had the assassin in their sights for minutes, asked for permission, were denied permission to take him out. That apparently is false. That's what he told us. They acquired him after the shots were fired. But again, we need detailed interviews with those individuals to find out exactly what happened. It's unbelievable how little information has been coming from federal law enforcement. We want a detailed timeline. We need all their communications. Here's what we did find out when my staff, committee staff, went down to Butler on Friday. First of all, at 5:45, the sniper teams of the Secret Service did receive the photos of Crooks, and they knew he was at the AGR building. So this is 26 minutes before he took his first shot. So we've had that confirmed. We also have confirmed that the radios that local law enforcement gave the Secret Service sniper teams were never used by the Secret Service. So again, all the communication was channeled. People were, the sniper and SWAT teams were on different communication channels than the patrol officers, different communication channels from Secret Service, all funneled in through a central communications system, which obviously delayed things and allowed this tragedy to happen.
That is, I think, going to be when we really get down to the bottom line. I mean, the local police provided the Secret Service with radio so they could hear what they were seeing and could report to them back to their central location. And they never used those radios. Oh, yeah, we don't need to hear the traffic people. Who the traffic people turned out to be some of the first people on the scene. Communication silo. It happened, again, it happened in 9/11. The CIA had its communications within itself. The FBI had theirs. National security agencies had, over here, the NSA had their silos. They weren't talking to each other. And I guarantee you this is going to be one of the major things they find went wrong, is that you had all of this law enforcement on the ground. The local folks were catching stuff, but it wasn't getting relayed effectively to the Secret Service command quarter because of radio problems. It's really unbelievable when you think about it. And former Secret Service agent who has done a lot of work when it goes to doing prep sites says, "Look, I just don't know how you can blame this on the local police. This is a Secret Service failure."
The Secret Service is trying to play both sides of the fence here. They're trying to say they're in charge of the security. If you approach the Secret Service detail, you know, when they're securing an area and you say, hey, I want to do this, and they'll say, well, we're in charge of security. Now something's happened and they're trying to push it off on local law enforcement. That's not what the facts are. If there was nobody with that local law enforcement to tell them what to do or to show them where they should be standing, it falls back to the Secret Service because they had not enough real Secret Service agents, not enough uniform division officers.
And here's Richard Starpoli, who said he's done a lot of advance work for Secret Service. He's a former Secret Service agent, but an advance man. And it seems that the advance work on this really fell down by the wayside in Butler.
When I did sites, and I've done many, many sites over the years on a really big scale, I talk to everyone, the tactical units, the snipers, the fire department. I even want to talk to the guy delivering the ice to the venue. I need to know who everyone is and what they're doing. And those people, in effect, become my eyes and ears and allow me to properly secure my site. It simply wasn't done here, and this is unacceptable. If anyone doesn't think that the professional terrorist organizations all over the world were taking a hard look at this and are talking about this in their caves somewhere in Afghanistan, you're totally wrong. This was a cataclysmic failure on the part of the U.S. Secret Service.
And the former director of national intelligence under Trump, John Ratcliffe, agrees on that last point about the international terrorists have no doubt taken a look at this.
Groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and others who watch this are sitting there thinking, gosh, we thought the Secret Service was 10 feet tall. We didn't think this was possible, but we just saw some 20-year-old living in his mom's basement who was able to pull this off. So is there an opportunity there that we're not taking advantage of?
And we should be concerned because our borders are wide open. I want to leave you with this thought right here. This is from Breitbart. San Diego sector Border Patrol agents reportedly apprehend 3 suspected Palestinian terrorists after they illegally crossed the border between ports of entry. The suspected terrorist illegally crossed the Mexican border into California, according to a news report. Border Patrol agents took 3 suspected Palestinian terrorists into custody earlier this month. According to, this is again, a source within U.S. Customs and Border Protection told Breitbart, Texas, they could not confirm the report, but said it is highly likely information on special interest aliens is generally not disseminated outside of the sector originating the report to be sent to higher ups at headquarters. Look, we know that people are coming into this country that we don't know anything about. And we know that there have been a number of people who are come from countries that we are concerned about. Just so much, that is happening that you've got to worry about what those people inside this country who are not under the watchful eye of the FBI or the ICE people, what they're up to right now, and whether or not they were encouraged by the fact that a 20-year-old geekoid who lived in his mother's basement was able to pull this off. 21 minutes now past the hour. Genesis Diamonds is opening up the vault for their largest GIA diamond event ever. Starting Saturday for a limited time, all Genesis GIA diamond engagement rings will be marked down 20%. That's 20% below Genesis' already unbeatable price. This means you can buy like a dealer buys, with deep discounts on over $10 million in stunning diamond rings. These remarkable savings are on every GIA diamond engagement ring from a half carat to 20 carats, all shapes, rounds, princess cuts, cushion cuts, emerald cuts, ovals, pear shapes. Remember, all Genesis diamonds are hand-picked. They come straight from the diamond cutters and are graded by the GIA, the most prestigious gem lab in the entire world. At Genesis, you know their everyday prices are unbeatable, but for this event, they're taking value to a whole new level with an additional 20% off. Wow. Don't miss this chance to save like never before on that exquisite diamond ring. Buy like a dealer buys, starting Saturday for a limited time, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds. Limit 1 per customer, please. Green Hill and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
While Kamala Harris has energized many Democrats, there are still those in the party who are concerned about her candidacy. And in the wake of the weekend attack on Israel that left children dead, the region on heightened alert in anticipation of the Israeli response. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 26 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. There's so much else been going on that a lot of stories get overlooked, and I don't want this one to get overlooked. I think this is important. It goes back to the events of January 6th. You ready for this? This is from justthenews.com. 2 top House security aides under then Speaker Nancy Pelosi got stark warnings from police the night before the January 6 riots that protesters might try to breach the U.S. Capitol through its tunnel system and block lawmakers from voting to certify Joe Biden's presidential election win, according to newly obtained memos and text messages. The documents obtained by Just the News also confirm that Pelosi's team played a role in the botched security planning for that fateful day. We have identified, quote, we have identified numerous open source comments indicating groups' intentions of finding the tunnel entrances and confronting and blocking members of Congress. Capitol Police Deputy Chief Sean Gallagher wrote to Deputy House Sergeant at Arms Tim Blodgett at 8:55 p.m. on the 5th of January. Now, that email was then forwarded overnight to Blodgett's boss, who was the sergeant at arms of the House, Paul Irving. A later warning was sent later that evening about possible threats against Supreme Court justices, and the sergeants at arms office scheduled a briefing for Pelosi's then chief of staff, Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe the next morning, hours before the breach occurred, according to the messages obtained by the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee Chairman Barry Loudermilk. Now, the congressional investigators believe the text and emails may explain why Pelosi, in a recently surfaced video shot by her daughter, Alexandra, as they were fleeing the Capitol on January 6th, Pelosi actually claimed responsibility for the security failures that day, despite her later claims to the contrary. And I have that actual sound.
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
No, there's not a question of how they have, but they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more, because it's stupid that we should be in a situation like this, because they thought they had what? They thought these people would act civilized? They thought these people gave a damn? What is it that is missing here in terms of anticipation? If they give us a piece of paper, it says, walk through the tunnel, don't walk outside. That's our preparation for what's going on.
She's actually talking to Terry McAuliffe, who is the chief of staff, who got those warnings in that briefing the next morning on January 6th, the morning of January 6th. So there's no doubt that Pelosi knew. And here you have her saying she takes responsibility for not having done more. She understood at that moment that what had happened on January 6th was her responsibility because she did not take, and the staff of Pelosi did not take the warnings seriously. I mean, the word came back that she didn't want to have National Guard there, even though Trump offered, I think it was as many as 10,000 National Guard troops. He offered. She didn't want it because she didn't like the optics of it. Now she's understanding as she's fleeing the Capitol, literally fleeing the Capitol on January 6th. And what had happened fell at her feet when it came to responsibility. 3:30 now, time for the news.
Good afternoon. It is 3:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly cloudy. There is still rain in the area and 75 degrees. A complete forecast and a traffic update are on the way. Vice President Kamala Harris closing in on former President Trump in some of the polling in her first week as a candidate. While Harris is getting a lot of enthusiasm surrounding her campaign, some Democrats say she's still got a lot of work to do if she's going to win in key swing states. Here's ABC's Zoreen Shah.
I've spoken to people from our National Finance Committee in 2019. They are thrilled in this moment. But that said, there are some Democrats who are still very concerned, even though they say she has had a great week. They give her a high score for what she's accomplished in a short period of time. But they are still saying, if you look at the poll numbers, she is not winning. It is a very, very tight race. And they point to things like the border issues. They say if Republicans can make those kinds of issues stick, that she will simply lose this election, they say.
The Middle East on edge again, this time as the region waits for Israel's response to a deadly Hezbollah rocket attack over the weekend that killed a dozen children. Israel accusing Hezbollah of crossing a red line. The Iranian-backed group denying it was them. But the U.S. State Department says all the evidence does indeed point to Hezbollah. Meanwhile, many airlines, they're canceling their flights to Beirut for the next several days. Also, Americans being urged to reconsider travel to Beirut and Lebanon in particular. ABC's Jordana Miller, she's reporting from Jerusalem.
Israel's security cabinet formally approving a reprisal strike on Hezbollah after it killed 12 children on the Golan Heights in a rocket attack Saturday. But no details were given on the scale or timing of the reprisal, which Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vows will be significant. Most analysts here believe Netanyahu will limit the strikes to southern Lebanon, avoiding Beirut. That to signal Israel is not interested in war with Hezbollah, nor by extension, Iran.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
You know, the folks at the Wellness Institute of Nashville want you to know that there are no magic solutions when you have back pain. If you have back pain, it's pressure on your nerves. You can't apply a cream. There is no pill that you can take that will solve that problem. You have really a couple of choices. One of them is to undergo surgery. The other is to try this idea that you can try over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, non-invasive spinal decompression. Now, that's what I chose. I had problems with my neck and my lower back, and it has helped me a bunch going through non-surgical spinal decompression. They have state-of-the-art facilities and high-tech equipment to offer the very latest in non-surgical procedures. And getting better is important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, so they're offering half off spinal decompression treatments and half off the KT&E machine. That's right. And if you're a new patient, here's exactly what will happen. You'll go in, you'll get your exam, you'll get your consultation. They'll take an x-ray if they need to do that. They'll set you up with a plan and give you your first treatment, and that's all for just $23. $23. And then after that, half off of the non-surgical procedures, right? Well, I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. So call them today at 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and welcome to The Drive for this 29th day of July. Glad that you're with us. A lot of things to go over. The current president of the United States, lame duck, Joe Biden, is arrived in Texas, where he's going to give a speech about Supreme Court overhaul. He's an angry duck. And the thing is interesting is that Joe Biden served as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee for a lot of years, Senate Judiciary Committee. I remember covering him when we were going through some Supreme Court confirmation battles. dating all the way back to Clarence Thomas, etc. All of that, I was all there for that. And he when he became president, he was not in favor of changing the Supreme Court, the makeup of the Supreme Court. Even after he was elected president, he still sort of felt like that was, well, I hear people talking about that, but he wasn't on board until recently, and now all of a sudden he is. Why? Because they're looking for a campaign issue. That's why. On the way over to Texas, I think he's going to Austin. I think he's in Austin now. Karine Jean-Pierre made this statement.
The president and the vice president believe that no one is above the law, right? The rule of law is part of our democracy.
Well, nobody's above the law unless you happen to be an illegal immigrant coming to this country. Then apparently now, you're above the law now because they don't think you've done anything wrong by coming to this country illegally. They had all kinds of protests in D.C. When Benjamin Netanyahu and people were destructive and they challenged the police, and all those charges were dropped. So I guess those people are above the law. So, that's not entirely true. The Democrats do believe that some people are above the law. But okay, let's move on from that. I mean, what is he asking for? From the Wall Street Journal. Biden will propose a constitutional amendment overturning the court's recent decision giving Donald Trump and other former presidents immunity for crimes. Now, it is limited immunity, by the way. The high court ruled not that he has complete immunity, but that he has immunity for official actions, which, I think a president should be covered for the official acts that take place while you are president. He's not covered under unofficial acts, says the high court, but they have to determine exactly what is an official and what is an unofficial act. And there is some gray area there, especially when you start talking about possession of documents from secure documents from that time. So he wants to overturn that Supreme Court decision. He wants to establish term limits for the justices who currently serve. They serve life. They can be there as long as they feel like they can be there. It is a lifetime appointment, and they want to impose an enforceable code of conduct in place of the self-policing system the court adopted last year. And what I don't see in this, and what I'm surprised I don't see, is a call to expand the number of justices in the high court, because a lot of Democrats want to do that as well. Now, here's what you need to know. Right now, with the Senate controlled by the Democrats and the House controlled by the Republicans, this is going nowhere. It's just not going to go anywhere. And, you can say, oh, I want to have a Supreme Court. I want to have a constitutional amendment. Okay. Well, we all know what a heavy lift that is. It's a darn near impossible thing to do. So, I don't know. And then what I read here, and I see this phrase here, it's really just, so we want to establish term limits for justices. We don't want somebody who's too old serving in the high court. I don't want somebody who's too old serving as my president of the United States. And they say, well, we want an enforceable code of conduct in place for the self-policing system instead of the self-policing system the court adopted last year. You want a code of conduct, right? I'd like a code of conduct on members of the House and Senate. But, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? That's what I want. And as pointed out, there is little chance of Biden's proposals will advance before the November election. But it's not always just about what is possible. And this silly season that we're in, things get suggested and ideas are bounced around, not because they really expect them to go forward or for things to happen, but because they want to make a political point. There is little chance his will be advanced for November, but with low public approval of the court, and Democrats believe it will resonate with voters. Vice President Kamala Harris, the likely Democrat nominee for president, strongly backs Biden's proposals. In fact, I got another story here that says that she is co-proposing the Biden plan. This is from New York Post. Vice President Kamala Harris said Monday she is jointly proposing alongside President Biden a long-shot plan to remake the Supreme Court, which Republicans denounced as politicizing the legal system. She says, President Biden and I are calling on Congress to pass important reforms, from imposing term limits for justices' active service to requiring justices to comply with binding ethics rules, just like every other federal judge. And finally, in our democracy, no one should be above the law unless we say so. She did not say. But I mean, she clearly thinks that some people are above the law. We must ensure that no former president has the immunity for crimes committed while in the White House. Well, that depends on what you determine to be a crime. I mean, Joe Biden is apparently above the law because he took documents that were top secret documents and put them in a box in his garage next to the Corvette, right? Remember the Corvette? And they're not bringing any charges against him. So does that mean he's above the law? The Biden-Harris proposals include an 18-year term limit for Supreme Court justices and requirements that justices disclose gifts, avoid public political activity, recuse themselves if their spouses have conflicts of interest. That's aimed at Clarence Thomas. Harris, 59, claimed credit for helping formulate the plan, which serves primarily to publicize criticism of conservative justices as she began her second week as the presumptive Democrat presidential nominee, following Biden's decision to abandon his pursuit of a second term. The reform package breathes a fresh round of coverage into controversies involving conservative Justice Clarence Thomas on the bench for nearly 33 years. Thomas is married to conservative activist Jenny Thomas and faces Democrat denunciation for accepting fees and undisclosed vacations from billionaire Harlan Crow, who had no known business before the court. I mean, there's where your conflict would come in. If his friend Harlan Crow wants to take him on a vacation and pay for it because he's a bazillionaire, well, is that a violation if there is no known business before the court involving Harlan Crow? To me, that's where the conflict would come in. Although it's also true that Biden himself has failed to list free vacations on his annual ethics forms. So again, what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander, right? The reforms are also likely to bring another round of coverage to conservative Justice Samuel Alito, serving for more than 18 years, whose wife hanged an American flag upside down around the time of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, something he said, by the way, he didn't know anything about, and he asked her to take it down. Every husband in the world knows this story. Honey, I want you to take that flag down. And then 2 or 3 days, you find out it didn't get taken down. Wife said, no, I'm not gonna. I don't know why he should be held responsible. You know, husbands everywhere understand that one. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, of course, says this is not going anywhere. The president's proposal to radically overhaul the U.S. Supreme Court would tilt the balance of power and erode not only the rule of law, but the American people's faith in our system of justice. The proposal is the logical conclusion to the Biden-Harris administration and congressional Democrats' ongoing efforts to delegitimize the Supreme Court. Their calls to expand and pack the court will resume soon. It is telling the Democrats want to change the system that has guided our nation since its founding simply because they disagree with some of the court's recent decisions. The dangerous gambit of the Biden administration is dead on arrival in the House. It is, of course, dead on the arrival in the House. I mean, it's not going anywhere. See, the Democrats, what they're trying to do here is they're just trying to get people all riled up because they think that the Supreme Court is a winning issue for them. You know, because it's not just about the presidency; it's about who controls the court. And it's interesting. You know, I have not seen Sonia Sotomayor submit her resignation. I'm surprised she hasn't done that by now. I predicted she would. Yeah, see, I was wrong about that, I guess. But I'm surprised by that. And so, but what I would say is if they think this is going to resonate with the Democrats, here's what I would tell you. It resonates just as strongly with conservatives on the other side of the equation. They don't want the Supreme Court messed with. They like the 6-3 conservative majority. They got a lot to lose if the Democrats control the White House and the Senate, because Senate confirms the nominees, right? House is not part of that process, the Senate, right? So if we can control the White House and the Senate, then we can push through another conservative nominee, right? And that would make it 7-2, which, of course, I'm in favor in. But, I mean, we have a lot at stake here, an awful lot at stake here. And if Donald Trump wins, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to get a chance to, if Sonia Sotomayor does not tender her resignation like pretty quickly, we're going to get a chance to put another Supreme Court justice on the high court if Trump wins. So it's an equal opportunity issue as far as I'm concerned. Some Democrats may think that will really rally the base, but I think a lot of conservatives want to maintain what they have and maybe improve upon it. So I think it works to both sides. Go ahead and talk about it all you want. Oh, and here we go. Elizabeth Warren, she's all about this. Continued her credibility attacks on the Supreme Court. And she says, we're working to make changes. Now, she wants everything. She wants to pack the court. She wants to put in more Democrats. She wants to increase the number of justices on the high court. Again, I don't think that's going anywhere, but this is a very liberal idea to mess around with the court, which has operated successfully for all of these years. 50 minutes now past the hour.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Coming up at the top of the hour, the would-be Trump assassin allegedly stocked up on weapons-related purchases for an entire year prior to July 13th. Senator Mitch McConnell, he weighs in on President Biden's proposed changes to the Supreme Court, and wildfires out west, well, add an earthquake to all that. We'll get to those stories at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrial down about 50 points. The S&P down, or make that up 4. NASDAQ up 12. So not a lot of movement today. Let's find out what's driving the market. Check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Actually, a pretty uneventful day for the market, but a huge week after the Friday encouraging inflation report. The market's really going to turn its attention towards the Federal Reserve decision this week, the jobs report, and a lot of big tech earnings. So kicking off tomorrow, we're going to get consumer confidence. That's going to tell us a lot about the consumer, of course. And then on Wednesday, the Fed is not expected to actually lower rates. They're expected to hold them tight. But the market's going to be looking at what type of language they look for to potentially reduce rates in September. And then we've got the jobs report on Friday and a bunch of tech earnings, including Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta. So that's going to really move the market one way or another as we go on this week.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Find out about all the things they can do for you to get you ready for retirement over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 past the hour. All right, let's talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. As much as we'd like it, there's no magic solution if your back is hurting. It's because of pressure on your nerves. That's really what it's about. Now, pills and spinal creams, they can't help you. What can help you is non-invasive spinal decompression. Well, you can go undergo surgery, but I think I'd try the other first, wouldn't you? I choose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville for me because I had problems with my neck and back, and it really has helped. Their state-of-the-art facilities offer the high-tech equipment with the latest non-surgical procedures. And because getting better is important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, they're offering half off spinal decompression treatments and half off the KT knee machine, which is sort of like spinal decompression, but it's aimed at the knee. If you're a new patient, I'll tell you what you're going to get. You're going to get an exam. You're going to get consultation. You're going to get a plan, x-rays if needed, and then you'll get your first treatment. All of that in your first visit for only $23 if you're a new patient. Now, I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call them today, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Good afternoon. It's 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Cloudy, rain in the area, 78 degrees. A complete weather forecast and a traffic update are coming up. In an exclusive, the New York Post reporting that Donald Trump's would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, made more than 24 firearms-related purchases starting a year before he tried to kill the former president. Carefully covering his tracks, by using a fake name and trying to hide his activity online. That's according to law enforcement sources. Last spring, Crooks, 20 years of age, began to gear up, making more than 25 separate purchases from online gun supply stores using an alias. Again, that's according to sources that were reported on by the Post. It's not immediately known if any of the purchases were actual firearms, though federal law requires background and ID checks before buying a gun in most states. During the first half of this year, the gunman also bought 6 chemical precursors that he used to make the rudimentary explosive devices that were found in his home and his car. These purchases were also made under an alias, according to those sources. Now calls for changes to the Supreme Court as President Joe Biden finishes out the final months of his term. The president wants to see term limits for justices, a binding code of conduct and ethics rules, and for a constitutional amendment that reverses their latest decision on presidential immunity. The news not sitting well with retiring Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He spoke this today.
He wants what he calls an ethics code. That already exists. What the president is actually proposing is a stealth process for people other than the justices to decide cases.
We now move out west, where a 4.9 magnitude earthquake shook Southern California today. So far, no reports of injuries or any significant damage. ABC's Alex Stone, he's out in Los Angeles.
The epicenter of the quake was in the Barstow area out in the desert east of L.A., a place many people go through while driving between L.A. and Las Vegas. There is no known damage or injuries, but the shaking was felt around L.A. We felt it here in the ABC News Bureau. A few seconds of minor shaking. I noticed the water in my water bottle rocking back and forth.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Good afternoon. It's 7 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy, and I am so glad that you're with us here on this 29th day of July. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about, and I think we're going to mix it up pretty good this hour, at least at the top of this hour. I have a feeling that you and I are going to disagree, maybe, but I want you to have an open mind about it, okay? I mean, I will tell you this, no matter how strongly I feel about something, if somebody comes to me and they say, I have facts that maybe you are not aware of that I want you to consider, and somebody brings, facts, and I go, well, it caused me to rethink my position. I hold no pride in holding on to the position that I've now considered to be wrong because I have additional information. I mean, I do this all the time. I mean, I pretty much know where I am on certain things, but every once in a while something comes along and I say, well, this is my initial take on it. And then later I find out some information. I say, well, maybe my opinion has changed with the addition of information. I've never been one who locks in on a position and is not willing to listen to the other side. Okay. So I'm going to tell you something that is going to hack off. Initially, I know it's going to hack off a lot of you. And I'm not going to apologize for it because I think I'm right, but I'm willing to hear your point if you think I'm wrong. I watched the Olympics this weekend. What, you say? You watched the Olympics? Yeah, I watched the Olympics, and I thought it was great. I mean, Gretchen Walsh out there from Nashville, she did great. I love watching Simone Biles. I like watching, the American basketball team, who's just, look, all those superstars playing together. That's fun to watch, man, just draining them three-pointers from, out there just one after the other. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought the coverage was pretty good. And they said, but Brian, what about the thing that happened in the opening ceremonies? Why, the drag queens who mocked the Last Supper. And I go, I was deeply offended by that. I didn't see it in real time. I've only seen it afterwards, but I am deeply offended by that. However, that doesn't change my position about watching the Olympics, because none of the American athletes who have dedicated their lives to being the best at what they can be, they've put their lives on the line for years and years and years and years to become the best gymnast, the best swimmer, the best equestrians, whatever it is, surfer, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, they've dedicated their life to being really excellent at what they do, and they didn't have anything to do with the opening ceremonies at the Olympics. I care about them more than I care about this thing that happened. Now, I'm offended by it, don't get me wrong, but I don't hold my athletes accountable for what the committee did in the opening ceremonies. Now, if you have a different opinion about this, I'm glad to hear your opinion, and the phone lines are now open at 615-737-9986. I feel very strongly about this, that I don't want to let what happened there get in the way of enjoying the accomplishments of all of these athletes. There's a part of me that sort of wants to be mad at NBC, but I really can't even be mad at them because they are a company that just, won the contract to cover the event, and part of covering the Olympics is covering the opening and the closing ceremonies, and they didn't know what was going to go on, I guess. Or maybe they did. I don't know if they did. Maybe it's a different matter. NBC is facing an FCC complaint over airing the obscene Olympics Last Supper parody. Judicial Watch filed a complaint on Monday for airing it. And of course, they say that the skit included a man exposing himself during the ceremony, watched by millions, including children. Okay, again, I'm offended by that. I'm offended by what they did, but I'm not offended by, the performance of our athletes. I want to watch that. And by the way, when we talk about the mocking of Christianity, of course I'm against it, but there's nothing sacred about Da Vinci's Last Supper. It depicts a sacred thing, but there are all kinds of problems with that painting. You just look it up. For one, the subjects in the painting, they look like Western Europeans, not Middle Easterners. The painting is set in daytime, but the real supper would have started after sundown. The apostles are wearing Renaissance clothing instead of period-appropriate clothing. There is yeast on the table, but Passover meals avoided, yeast-risen bread. The plates and the glasses are fancy, but at the time when Jesus was walking this earth, they would have used clay or wooden glasses and cups. It's sort of weird that they're all sitting on the same side of the table. That wouldn't be accurate. The walls are marble, but that would not be true in Jesus' time. That would have been a very rarity. And it just goes on. And they're eating fish instead of lamb, which would have been the traditional meal. And so, you think about it, you have all of these things that are not particularly accurate about the painting. And I think it's a beautiful painting, but it's not historically accurate. It's not biblically accurate, but there it is. So I just think this is all, although I am deeply offended by the mocking of Christianity, I'm not at all offended by the Olympics writ large, because I think it's a remarkable thing where athletes from all over the world come, not Russia right now because they weren't allowed to come because of what happened in Ukraine, but I mean, everybody else, they come, they compete, and I like watching our athletes, and I think that they deserve our support. So do you have a different opinion than me? I'm very happy to hear the other side of this argument, but I don't know that. We cancel immediately. Oh, well, I'm not going to watch them. I'm going to cancel. And I'm not sure that's always the right reaction. I think it is sometimes, but not always. Richie in Clarksville. Hey, Richie, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Richie?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, you actually shed some light that kind of changed my mind a little bit, too, because I was highly offended. It was disgusting what they did, me being a Christian, and the athletes had nothing to do with this. But on top of that, I'm really ticked off about what happened with Hamas. Me being a Navy submarine vet, them tearing down our American flags and burning them.
Yep.
Capitals. So on top of all this stuff, I just don't know what the world is coming to.
Oh, I know. It is a difficult time to be alive. It is, to see some of the things going on. All right. Thank you, Richie. I appreciate it. Johnny in Cookeville, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Johnny?
Hey, buddy. I'm going to disappoint you because I don't really disagree with anything you said. I'm right there with you. Even in football games, I don't even start watching it until after, a couple of innings, and I don't watch the halftime because I want to watch the football. I don't watch all that other political stuff, and I love politics. I'm listening to politics. Want to watch a game. What I did want to say is a dear friend of mine, these drag queens, all that stuff, they would offend me. And he told me one time, he said, don't even be offended by them. He said, and Johnny said, you know the Bible better than I do. He said, Jesus said that these people would have a reprobate mind and they would damn themselves, and that's what they're doing. And he says, and furthermore, he says, like my daddy used to say, let everybody go to hell in their own way. And that's what they're doing. So don't even be that offended.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for them. I think I read a really nice commentary said the Christian thing to do would be to pray for those people. And I don't disagree with that at all. All right, Robert in Goodlettsville, you're up next on the drive. So Robert, you're free to disagree with me if you want. I don't mind. Robert? Robert, are you there?
I put on this punch list that we needed as-built because the developer changed some things on site. And
Robert,
at this time,
Robert's having another call, it seems like.
Punch list until
I don't know. Robert's got a punch list.
We'll get right on that. I'll get that punch list completed.
Yeah.
On GIS,
no, we don't want to eavesdrop on somebody else's conversation. Ray in Tullahoma, you're up next on the drive. What do you say? Hey, good afternoon, Ray. You're on with Brian.
Good afternoon, Brian. I agree with your points, and I want to watch the Olympics, but my fear is that if you go ahead and do that, you're biting into the advertisers. If you don't send a message in some way, that stuff will continue, and it may even get worse. Because as long as the advertisers are seeing that there's, millions and millions of people watching, then they're going to continue supporting it. That kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, but see, the advertisers didn't know this was going to happen. I mean,
no, they didn't.
They had no idea that this was going to pop up.
Send a message.
Well, but sending the message to penalize the advertisers, I don't know that they spent money that they thought was right for them because they advertising their product, they get return, on that, or they wouldn't spend the money on advertising, and I'm all in favor of that. But they had no idea. I mean, in fact, one advertiser has asked for their money back and has pulled out of advertising because of it, and I think that's their right to do so. But I mean, I don't blame the athletes. I don't really blame NBC. Although, if they had some advance, if there was a rehearsal when this was done, and they thought this was going to be okay, seems like maybe somebody could raise an issue with NBC. But I've seen no indication of that so far. In other words, this thing happened because the organizing committee, the welcoming committee there in Paris, thought this was okay. Be mad at them, is what I would say. But advertisers, they didn't know what they were going to do. They had no advance warning, certainly. Jeff in Nashville, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Jeff?
Hey, I think you're spot on. The event's so special. I've got a 4-year-old, man. I get torn up talking about it. He just loves it. He hears the anthem come on, he cheers. Cheers for America.
I know, and when you got somebody on the podium and they're getting the gold medal and they're playing the national anthem, I mean, I don't know. I can't keep a dry eye. Can you?
No, it's tough, and so as special as that is, what was unfortunate, that same 4-year-old watching the opening ceremony saying, "Mommy, Daddy, what are those guys with makeup? What is that? Like, that's supposed to be a family event." So I'm very glad to hear complaints being filed. Not that I expect that to harm anyone involved, but it's hard not to support the athletes. You could maybe make an argument. I don't want to watch LeBron and Steve Kerr after what they did when their press conference and they took the opportunity to endorse their candidate for president instead of talk about the games. But,
right.
Overwhelmingly, I agree. Support the athletes. Especially Vance. But yeah, that's just one other comment. I'm very surprised to see so many, even in church leadership, I've seen in social media, almost appears as if they're defending or, trying to make it that it was okay what happened and turning the table to say that we're wrong for disagreeing. And it's like,
no, I don't have any problem with disagreeing. I just have a problem with people saying I can't watch one moment of the Olympics because of what happened, and I just think that's the wrong attitude. This cancel culture that we're in right now, I'm not sure it's the right thing always. I mean, clearly, for example, if something happens that you feel so passionately about, you just can't support. I mean, for example, the tractor supply guy, he apparently has been out there doing some things with DEI, et cetera, that have upset the people. And a lot of people said they weren't going to do any business at Tractor Supply. I think that's more fair if but then he immediately he realized, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose a lot of business. I'm not going to do those things anymore. I don't know how it's worked out for them, but that's a more fair thing. I'll give you one that I think is also unfair. And it has to do with people saying, I can't watch Netflix or I can't watch anything on Netflix. Well, I have found there have been movies and things that I've seen on Netflix that were Christian based, had good moral stories to them, and all of that. But people say, well, Netflix gave $7 million to Kamala Harris. You know what? That's not true, by the way. What you say? You don't know that story? No, it's not true. Netflix did not give $7 million to Kamala Harris. And I'll tell you what really happened in that thing, if you're interested, right after the commercial break, 21 past the hour.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Well, at the top of the hour, Brian's been mentioning it somewhat. We'll have some good news for you with respect to the Olympics. The U.S. winning an Olympic medal in an event for the first time in 16 years. And we'll have today's closing money news. That's all coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
26 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. No, I'm watching the Olympics, and I don't think it's fair to not support our Olympic athletes, American Olympic athletes, because of what happened in the opening ceremony. And so, you know, I'm offended and repulsed by it, but I don't think it means that I can't watch the athletic competitions. Because this was not the fault of NBC. It was not the fault of the athletes. It was the fault of the people who organized the opening ceremonies. And yet, yes, I was repulsed. I thought it was horrible, but I'm not going to let that stop me from watching and supporting American athletes who've spent their entire lives getting ready for this moment. So, there's that. Now, I mentioned before the break that I didn't think that the cancel culture was sometimes, the right thing to do. I mean, if you go online, you will see a ton of people out there saying that I just canceled my Netflix. And I can't support Netflix because they gave $7 million to Kamala Harris. Not true. There's a guy by the name of Reed Hastings, who's the former CEO, stepped down, a long time ago. He does serve on the executive chairman of Netflix on the board, but he's not running the place. And the money, the $7 million, did not come from Netflix. It came from Reed Hastings. He made a $7 million campaign donation. That is true, but Netflix did not. It was not a corporate contribution. It was an individual contribution. And so if you say that, well, then what about Elon Musk on the other side of the equation, who is said to have given millions and millions, maybe as many as $45 million a month to the Trump campaign? Should people on the left say, well, I can't use X anymore? It's an individual contribution, not a corporate contribution. So again, people say, well, I checked it and it's true. It's not true. Reed Hastings made a personal donation. Netflix did not make the donation. Now, Netflix, and there's a lot of stuff on Netflix that I don't think is worth watching, but every once in a while I find something that I find truly inspiring. Good, moralistic stories sometimes. If you look for hard to find them, you can find a few. So I just think we got to be real careful when we decide we're going to cancel something to make sure it's fair. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's wrong all the time. I'm just saying, I think we ought to be very careful to make sure that we get our facts correct. And I can't believe the number of people say, well, I checked it and it's true. It's not true. It was an individual, not a corporate donation. Individuals have the right to make those donations. You have the right to make that donation. I have the right to make that donation. Elon Musk has the right to make a donation. And so everybody has the right to do that in our system. And you may disagree with the individual, but it wasn't like the board voted, we're going to give $7 million of Netflix profits to the Kamala Harris campaign or to the Harris campaign. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. So again, if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words, but it's pretty clear that's how it went down. And people don't understand sometimes the nuance of how these things work. So again, I'm all for standing up when you're truly right and deciding I'm not going to do business with that company. I'm not going to support that company. If you deeply disagree, the Disney Corporation at times has really hacked me off. And I have a problem with that. But I don't think that the Netflix things is fair, and I don't think it's fair to deny our athletes our support. So I hope we can still be friends. 30 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It's 4:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got a mostly cloudy sky, some rain showers in the area, 78 degrees. A forecast and a traffic update are coming up. The U.S. men's gymnastics team took a thrilling bronze in the team event in Paris on Monday, earning the first team medal for the American men since the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing. With sharp performances in all 6 rotations, rings, vault, parallel bars, horizontal bar, floor exercise, and pommel horse. The team, consisting of Brody Malone, Paul Judah, Asher Hong, Frederick Richard, and Stephen Dorashik, they all earned a spot on the podium behind the gold medal winners, Japan, and the silver medalist team from China. Now let's head over to today's closing money news with Daria Albinger.
From ABC News Wall Street now, stocks closed mixed as we head into a busy week for the markets. The Dow was down 49 points at the bell. The Nasdaq up 12, the S&P up 4. We are in the thick of earnings season. Among the companies that will report this week, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta Platforms. A year after raising a benchmark interest rate, the most in a quarter of a century, the Federal Reserve is expected to signal this week that it's ready to lower borrowing costs as soon as September. Economists say that would be a momentous shift and a major boost to the economy. Fed rate cuts typically lower borrowing costs for things like mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. A single cut might not do too much, but historically it's led to a series of interest rate reductions. We may not be loving Mickey D's as much as we have in the past. Same store sales at McDonald's fell for the first time in 4 years.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Busy Bee. We got just a couple of days left in July, and it's time for you to still enter to win a free 3-day beach vacation giveaway if you buy a new air conditioning unit. If you got one that's on the blink, buy it now. Have it installed and apply to win this $3,000 vacation. They'll take care of gas, lodging, and 2 meals a day. And they'll be announcing the winner soon on Facebook Live. Only those who purchase a new air conditioning unit in the month of July are eligible to enter this drawing, and there's only one winner. Right now, in July, if you waive, they will waive the $89 dispatch fee if you need some repair work done. And so if you have an air conditioner that's not blowing cold, why don't you get them out there? They'll waive that $89 fee. Beehive Club membership is something that you should have. I'm telling you, I have one. I think it's great for everyone. And if you get one in the month of July, which is, a couple more days left, you get to give a free yearly Beehive membership to someone in your neighborhood. The free membership must go to a family who lives nearby you. You got a big project, an HVAC project that needs to be, completely replaced. 0% for 18 months with approved credit. Big plumbing project. 0 for 72 months. 0% for 72 months with approved credit. They are, of course, your official Rude Pro partner. 615-775-7833. Learn more at busybhvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Glad that you're with us here on this unusually sort of coolish day, 77 degrees, and we've had some rain. I tell you what, we had a bunch of rain this weekend, and I wanted every drop that fell because my yard is really looking bad right now.
Yeah, it's much appreciated at my house, too.
I'll tell you. I mean, there's parts of my yard I'm not sure they're going to come back without reseeding. It's ugly. But, I mean, it was nice. Nice, refreshing rain. Hey, let's do a 2024 update because we got a lot of stuff to share with you about how the campaign is going. I'll start with the numbers. Folks, I need you to hear this and pay attention. This race is getting a lot tighter. Now, my feeling is that this is the honeymoon period for Kamala Harris, and I think that when you start spending a lot of time really looking at some of the things that Kamala Harris has said and done and the position she's held, I think over time those numbers will go down. But it has tightened up significantly, according to some of this. As we now we're a little bit into it now. We've gotten several polls across. We get a good idea. Okay, for example. In the general election number, the Wall Street Journal says that in a two-way race between Trump and Harris, Trump wins by 2. But if you look at the 5-way race, Harris wins by 1. Well, that's all pretty close to the margin of error. That's not what all of those numbers are within the margin of error. So I would call it essentially a tied race. And let's look at the battlegrounds because, as you know, I care more about that than I do the general election numbers. Fox has a whole series of polls at some of the key battleground states, not all. And the two-way number that's Trump versus Harris. Trump wins in Wisconsin by 1. He ties with Harris in Michigan, and in Pennsylvania, he ties with Harris. Now, those are states that Trump needs to win if he's going to prevail. It seems he's got to win one of those pretty substantially. In the 5-way matchups in Wisconsin, Fox has it as a tie. In the 5-way in Michigan, he has, and this is strange, Trump up by 2. In the 5-way in Pennsylvania, Trump is up by 2. There is a Minnesota poll out there. One has Harris leading in Minnesota by 6. The other has Harris winning in Minnesota by 10. Now, the numbers were tighter in Minnesota when Biden was the nominee. But now it seems that Minnesota has gone back to being Minnesota. And so they're very much in support of Harris if these numbers are correct. These come from two different polling companies. Minnesota, Harris plus 6 in one, plus 10 in the other. So if that's true or even close to true, that would be outside the margin of error. And Minnesota seems to be not really a battleground state anymore. So there's those numbers. Again, we will get a better sense of it as more numbers come in, and I do believe that some of this is honeymoon for Harris, but I think over time these things will be whittled down as we really learn more about Kamala Harris, and that is, of course, if people will just pay attention. She is so radical. There's just no doubt about it. No doubt about it. She in fact, she'll tell you she's a radical.
And yeah, I am a radical.
There you go. How about that? How about that little gem, huh? Are you a radical?
And yeah, I am a radical.
She is a radical. She talks about climate change and what it means for, for a lot of people on the left side of the equation.
I've heard young leaders talk with me about a term they've coined called climate anxiety. Right? Which is fear of the future and the unknown, of whether it makes sense for you to even think about having children.
See, she did say it. She said, well, there are these people, I think we shouldn't have children because we're concerned about climate change. J.D. Vance has gotten into trouble for talking about, people who don't have children. And I think it's a little unfair. He did appear on Trey Gowdy's show this weekend, J.D. Vance did, and tried to explain himself. And having heard the explanation, I feel a little better about it.
I think you will agree with me that direct offspring are not necessary to be fully invested in the future of this country.
Of course not, Trey. I do think that being a parent actually has a profound effect on somebody's perspective, and we should honor and respect that. But there are a whole host of people who don't have children for a whole host of reasons, and they certainly are great people who can participate fully in the life of this country. And that's not what I said, Trey. If you look at what the left has done, they have radically taken this out of context and, in fact, aggressively lied about what I've said. What I do think is true, Trey, and this goes to the heart of what I was talking about 3 years ago in those comments, but it's going to be something I continue to talk about, is that the left has increasingly become explicitly anti-child and anti-family. They've encouraged young families not to have children at all because of concerns over climate change. They've suggested that people who do have children are somehow being selfish, when I think being a parent is actually the most selfless thing that you can do, and again, really does transform your perspective. So this is not a criticism, and was never a criticism, Trey, of everybody without children. That is a lie of the left. It is a criticism of the increasingly anti-parent and anti-child attitude of the left. There's one more thing I want to say on this, Trey. I think a lot of parents and a lot of non-parents look at our public policy over the last 4 years and ask, how did we get to this place? How did we get to a place where Kamala Harris is calling for an end to the child tax credit? How did we get to a place where we were masking toddlers years into the pandemic? I think it's because we radically underrepresent the perspective of parents in our public discourse. I'm going to keep on calling that out because I think it's important for parents to have a voice, and I'm proud to be on the ticket with President Trump. I think a real defender of parents and families.
There you go. So, I mean, that clarifies it for me. I don't know if it does for you, but it does for me. I'm glad to hear that. Donald Trump was in Nashville this weekend talking about, Bitcoin. There's a big Bitcoin conference. You had to have a lot of money to go to this conference, apparently. And he said, look, Bitcoin is not a threat.
Those who say that Bitcoin is a threat to the dollar have the story exactly backwards. I believe it is exactly backwards. Bitcoin is not threatening the dollar. The behavior of the current U.S. government is really threatening the dollar. The danger to our financial future does not come from crypto. It comes from Washington, D.C. It comes from trillions of dollars in waste, rampant inflation, and open borders while giving welfare and free health care to all of the illegal aliens that are pouring into our country by the millions and millions and millions. It comes from printing hundreds of billions of dollars to fund endless wars overseas while our cities are like combat zones here at home.
Well, I think we can all agree with that. He also, this may mean something to you. It didn't mean a hell of a lot to me because I'm not sure I completely understand the whole concept, but I have heard people talk about it. He says, look, we're not going to have any of this thing, this central bank digital currency. We're not going to have it.
Next, I will immediately order the Treasury Department and other federal agencies to cease and desist all steps necessary because there's a thing going on in your industry. They want to move the creation of a central bank digital currency. It's over. Forget it. CBDC. There will never be a CBDC while I'm president of the United States.
All right, so now we like to close out with the blast from the past from Kamala. Things that she's going to have to explain, and there's a lot of it. Like the fact that she says she was the last person in the room when Joe Biden decided that he was going to pull out of Afghanistan, and she completely supported it and may have been there as he made the final decision.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision. Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do. And I'm going to add to that. This is a president who has an extraordinary amount of courage. He is someone who I have seen over and over again make decisions based on what he truly believes, based on his years of doing this work and studying these issues, what he truly believes is the right thing to do. And I'm going to tell you something about him. He is acutely aware that it may not be politically popular or advantageous for him personally. It's really something to see. And I wish that the American public could see sometimes what I see. Because ultimately, and the decision always rests with him, but I have seen him over and over again make decisions based exactly on what he believes is right, regardless of what maybe the political people tell him is in his best selfish interest.
So she acknowledges that she supports his withdrawal from Afghanistan, which many people sort of look at as the beginning of the end of security around the world, because once we got chased out of Afghanistan by the Taliban. Then China became more aggressive in the South China Sea. We can roll these Americans there. Look at the Taliban chased them out. They're not all that in a bag of chips. The Chinese were saying about us, and then of course the invasion of Ukraine. Many people think that when they saw what happened in Afghanistan and how weak the United States looked on the world stage, they decided to invade Ukraine. And then here's one. She absolutely 1,000% is in favor of amnesty for those who have come into our country illegally. Let's not let everybody forget about that.
I intend to fight for a state that has the largest number of immigrants, documented and undocumented, of any state in this country, and do everything we can to bring them justice and dignity and fairness under the law and pass comprehensive immigration reform. Bring them out from under the shadows.
All right, yeah, just give them amnesty. That's the whole plan. It's always been the plan, and she's 1,000% on board with that plan. Don't let people forget that. If you don't like what's happening on the border, you're going to get 4 more years of it with Kamala. 50 minutes now past the hour. There are no pills or spinal creams that can magically solve your pain in the back. That just doesn't exist. It's pressure on your nerves, and pills and spinal creams, they just won't get it. You have 2 choices. One is surgery. The other is non-invasive spinal decompression. I chose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Their state-of-the-art facilities offer the high-tech equipment with the latest non-surgical procedures. And getting better is important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, so they're offering half off spinal decompression and half off the KT knee machine. If you're a new patient and you call this number and set up your appointment, 615-246-5009, you'll get an exam, a consultation, and your first treatment only $23. And you got that on you. I'm Brian Wilson. I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. So learn more by going to their website, painisbad.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
A new report on Nashville crime has been released. The Senate Majority Leader, he speaks out on Joe Biden's proposed Supreme Court changes, and the FBI and Donald Trump, they're sitting down for a formal interview in the wake of the attempted assassination of the former president. We'll have those stories and more coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 57 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. A lot of information coming to us about the investigation into the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. What's the very latest? We'll have it for you coming up at the top of the next hour after the news on Super Talk 99.7. All right, let me tell you about the folks over at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa in Lebanon. They are the weight loss leader in Wilson County. And I'm telling you, I can speak from some personal experience because I have gone there and they've been working with me, and I'm down now 25 pounds. This is the great thing. By going through this process, every morning when I get on the scale, the number is lower. It's just a great feeling. Every day you're just getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Why don't you call the Restoration Wellness team today at 615-470-8124 or visit them on their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consultation today. Now, my friends Carly and Jamie will take care of you like you're part of the family. Be a part of the 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results from the weight loss management program. Weight loss can increase your energy levels, improve your quality of sleep, and enhance your overall health. These are customized treatment plans, not one size fits all. Restoration Wellness considers your unique needs, your lifestyle, and your goals. So if your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health in other ways, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Learn about the newest technology in weight loss management. Just go to the website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly cloudy, 80 degrees. A full forecast and the latest traffic report are coming up. Right now in Nashville, a new study finding that most crimes in Music City are returning to pre-pandemic levels, except one. We hear now from News 2's Mark Kelly.
Well, a new study by the Council on Criminal Justice revealing that most crimes are returning back to pre-pandemic levels. The study collected data on 12 different crimes from Metro police departments across the country, and for the most part, the trend is consistent here in Nashville as well, except when it comes to homicides. According to Nashville police, homicide is 20% lower in the first half of this year compared to the same period last year. Motor vehicle thefts, though, are still rising in the Nashville metro. Meanwhile, shoplifting incidents appear to have only slightly increased in Nashville, but are not much higher than pre-pandemic levels.
We now turn to our nation's capital. Calls for changes to the Supreme Court as President Biden finishes out the final months of his term. The president wants to see term limits for justices, a binding code of conduct and ethics rules, and for a constitutional amendment that reverses the court's latest decision on presidential immunity. Retiring Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he reacted to Biden's formal push.
President Biden and his leftist allies don't like the current composition of the court. So they want to shred the Constitution to change it.
The FBI saying former President Trump has agreed to be interviewed as part of the investigation into the attempt on his life.
He's a victim of what occurred, and so the FBI says just like they would any other crime victim in an investigation, they're going to interview the former president. He has agreed. The details they did not reveal, but they did say they've interviewed 450 people so far as part of this investigation.
That's ABC's Aaron Katursky. And as millions of Americans, particularly out west, deal with wildfire smoke, a new study says that smoke in particular is worse for your brain than any other air pollution. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
New findings reported at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in Philadelphia show tiny particles in wildfire smoke about 30 times smaller than a human hair's width that are inhaled deep into the lungs and move into the bloodstream can play a role in dementia. The study finding the odds of dementia increased by 21% for every 1 microgram increase in wildfire particles. The chief science officer of the Alzheimer's Association says more research is warranted.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
It's 7 minutes now past the hour, 5 o'clock. Hey, everybody. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. How you doing on this Monday? After a rainy weekend, we have a rainy Monday. Rainy days and Mondays always bring me down.
Oh, just wait. 95 and 80% humidity. We'll be back in just a couple days.
Right. There you go. Well, I want to start off this hour, as I started off the show at 3, with sort of a rehash of new information that we're getting a much more detailed picture of what happened when that shooter in Butler, Pennsylvania, tried to kill former President Trump. An attempted assassination attempt. An attempted assassination, period. And so what are we learning? We're learning a lot more because we have people who were there that day, involved in the coverage from the local level, local SWAT team, now talking to ABC News. Now, this is Aaron Katursky, a pretty good reporter over at ABC News, who went and got these guys together, put them all together in a room, and started to go through it to do the TikTok with me. What happened? And what they're revealing is that there was a shocking lack of interaction and planning between the Secret Service and the local police who were there to provide additional coverage of the venue. Here's Aaron Katursky.
This Pennsylvania SWAT team took up positions in defense of the former president at his rally. They saw the shooter first, recognized him as suspicious, and took steps they thought would have prevented the attempted assassination. Now they're living with failure.
I remember standing in the parking lot talking to one of the guys, and we just became part of history. Not in a good way.
The SWAT team from Beaver County, Pennsylvania knew something about the scrawny young man seemed off. He can be seen in this video obtained by ABC affiliate WTAE skulking around former President Trump's rally. Text messages between local snipers show they noticed Thomas Matthew Crooks at 4:26 p.m., nearly 2 hours before the attempted assassination that would injure Trump, kill a man, and severely hurt 2 others. By 5:14 p.m., they grew suspicious.
He was looking up and down the building and just wandering around, and it just seemed out of place.
Greg Nichols snapped photos of the shooter.
We had a text group between the local snipers that were on scene. I had sent those pictures out to that group and advised them of what I noticed and what I'd seen.
What do you think is transpiring once you send in what you've sent in?
I assumed that there would be somebody coming out to speak with this individual or, find out what's going on.
So how do you know if Greg's concerns about Crooks are being relayed properly?
We don't. We have to assume that when he put that information out to command, that command took that information and did something with it. We don't know if they did.
None of the concerns appears to have reached members of Trump's Secret Service detail. The Washington Post reports they've complained they were never made aware of the warnings. In their first public comments about the assassination attempt, members of the Beaver County SWAT team described to ABC News what they consider to be failures of planning and communication that would prove catastrophic.
We were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. So I think that was probably a pivotal point where I started thinking things were wrong, because that never happened, and we had no communication with the Secret Service.
You had no communication with the Secret Service at all on that Saturday?
No, not until after the shooting, I believe. Yeah.
And by then?
It was too late.
The Secret Service declined to respond directly, but told ABC News the agency is committed to better understanding what happened and is offering complete cooperation with ongoing investigations.
The suspect is directly above us.
Members of the Beaver County SWAT team rushed to the shooter's rooftop,
There's a ladder right here.
as seen in footage from Rich Gianvito's helmet camera.
Thanks, brother. Yep.
So we had access through that ladder, got up onto the roof.
And as you're scrambling onto that roof, you don't know for sure whether he's dead or alive, or whether you'll encounter fire.
At that point, no.
So what are you prepared? Are you prepared for a firefight at that point?
Well, we're prepared for anything at that point, because at this time we're unsure.
Give me a solid perimeter. Get guys prepped to clear the building.
He encountered the shooter's bloodied body some 400 feet from the stage. The team believes it did everything it could have to thwart the attack, but accepts its share of failure.
I think we all failed that day.
How so?
Life is lost.
Yeah. People died. And if there's anything that we could have done to stop that, we should have done.
We visited the SWAT team at its headquarters in western Pennsylvania, where they've been studying maps, satellite footage, even their own crude replica of the rally site. They're racing to learn everything they can because former President Trump has said he plans to hold another rally soon out there in western Pennsylvania.
I bet it won't be outdoors. What do you want to bet? Okay, so there is that. Now, that's pretty revealing information that the Secret Service was not in communication with the local people on the day of the rally. Senator Ron Johnson has some information that also adds to this lack of communication between the local police and the Secret Service.
Here's what we did find out when my staff, or committee staff, went down to Butler on Friday. First of all, at 5:45, the sniper teams of the Secret Service did receive the photos of Crooks, and they knew he was at the AGR building. So this is 26 minutes before he took his first shot. So we've had that confirmed. We also have confirmed that the radios that local law enforcement gave the Secret Service sniper teams were never used by the Secret Service. So again, all the communication was channeled. People were, the sniper and SWAT teams were on different communication channels than the patrol officers, different communication channels from Secret Service, all funneled in through a central communications system, which obviously delayed things and allowed this tragedy to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't talking to each other. I mean, it's left hand, right hand, right? And I can't help but notice the similarities to what happened on 9/11 because, post 9/11, we tried to figure out how did this go wrong? Because there were little signs here and there that nobody put together, and it was a left hand, right hand thing. Left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. You had information silos. So here you got the FBI, and they're developing all of this information over here. And over here you got the CIA, and they're developing all this information. And here you got the National Security Agency, and they're developing all their information. And they're not sharing with each other. And that's how things fell apart. That's why we now have a director of national intelligence, somebody who sits atop everything and looks at all of the evidence. And he's got a staff that takes, a look at a very select group of people who look at all of the intelligence and try to make sure that things like that are not missed. It really is very similar. And in Butler, what you had were not intelligence agencies that failed, but that their communications were all siloed. The CIA, the FBI had one communications channel. The Secret Service had another. The local PA police department had one. The SWAT team was on another. The State Patrol was even on another. So, I mean, nobody was listening to it. They weren't talking to each other. Easy to understand how things fall through the cracks when you're not able to communicate. I mean, just look around your own company or the place where you work. Do you find sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing? Welcome to government, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a mystery. It was an unbelievable oversight. It really was. Here's Richard Staropoli, who is a former Secret Service agent who did a lot of advance work, and he's just dumbfounded.
When I did sites, and I've done many, many sites over the years on a really big scale, I talked to everyone, the tactical units, the snipers, the fire department. I even want to talk to the guy delivering the ice to the venue. I need to know who everyone is and what they're doing. And those people, in effect, become my eyes and ears and allow me to properly secure my site. It simply wasn't done here, and this is unacceptable. If anyone doesn't think that the professional terrorist organizations all over the world were taking a hard look at this and are talking about this in their caves somewhere in Afghanistan, you're totally wrong. This was a cataclysmic failure on the part of the U.S. Secret Service.
Cataclysmic failure on the part of the Secret Service. So let's go through the detailed timeline as we have it. July 5th, this is several days beforehand, Secret Service tells Butler County Emergency Services Unit, the ESU, about the plan for a Trump rally on the 13th. So that's what, 7 days. 7-8 days. July 6th, Crook conducts a Google search on how far away Oswald was from Kennedy. So apparently news coverage caught his attention. He goes to the Google machine and he asks about the Oswald assassination of John F. Kennedy and found out that information. The next day, he goes to the rally site and spends about 20 minutes. They know this through the cell phone information. They can tell where he was. and they believe this was his first early look at the site. On the 8th of July, again, remember the event is on the 13th, the ESU and the U.S. Secret Service meet to discuss the rally 5 days in advance. We know that. On July 10th, the United States Secret Service conducts a site visit at the rally grounds 3 days before Trump's visit. The 12th, Crooks goes to a shooting range. He practices with what is believed to be the weapon he'll end up using for the assassination attempt. On the day of the rally, we don't have an exact time, but he went and bought ammunition early. At 9 a.m., the ESU, the folks from Butler, host a briefing with the local SWAT and sniper units from Butler County, Beaver County, and Washington County, providing security. And they show a 46-slide presentation that outlines which law enforcement unit is responsible for covering which areas of the rally and staging and sniper areas. Federal law enforcement did not attend the briefing, according to Johnson's office. And that's backed up by the Butler folks. 9:42 a.m., shooter Matthew Crooks stops at Home Depot to buy a ladder, but it's not important because he didn't take the ladder with him. Wasn't found on the car, wasn't found on the grounds. They have the ladder. July 13th, 10 a.m., law enforcement say local law enforcement snipers are on the second floor inside the American Glass Research Building that Crooks apparently shot from. They're inside, not on the roof. July 13th, 11 a.m., the shooter visits the rally site, spends about an hour there before heading home. July 13th, at some point, Crooks tells his parents he's headed to the nearby shooting range. And at some point, this is weird, Crooks' parents contact law enforcement hours before he opened fire. The shooter's mother and father told police that Crooks was missing and that they were concerned about his welfare, according to a source talking to Fox News. It's unclear if they knew he was in possession of an AR-15 that he had purchased from his father. July 13th, 3:50 to 4 p.m. Crooks drives around the area of the shooting, flies a drone about 200 yards away from where Trump was going to be speaking. Remember, Trump speaks at 6. This is at 3:50. They say no photos or videos were taken from the drone, no memory card on the drone. It believes that he was streaming the images straight to his phone or to the device that controls the drone, which is, most of them do that now. July 13th, 4:26. This is about, 90 minutes before the shooting. The counter sniper leaving position on the second floor of a warehouse overlooking the rally site because his shift is ending notices a young man sitting at a picnic table and texts the other counter snipers still in the building, alerting them to the man. At 5:04, Crooks is seen on video walking to the AGR building. 5:10, they identify him as a suspicious person of interest, and they at 5:14 they take pictures. They take pictures of a bicycle and what appears to be 2 bags near the AGR building. We don't know anything about what happened to the bicycle or the bags. 5:52, they got eyes on him. That was about 20 minutes before he started firing. 5:56, Crooks is seen again. They lost him, but they found him again carrying a backpack near the AGR building. At 6 p.m., Trump takes to the podium. At 6:08, FBI says Crooks is spotted traversing across the roof on the AGR building. At 6:11, gunshots ring out. They found 8 casings at the scene, and there were 8 shots fired. He shot 8 times before he was neutralized. And at 6:12, United States Secret Service agents can be overheard working to target the shooter using code names and firing in specific directions. The local tactical team from Butler took the first shot and missed, and a Secret Service agent shot the assailant. He was on a second sniper team nearby. And that's how it went down, as best we can tell right now. Huge questions. But it seems to me the failure is all on the Secret Service, and it's pretty amazing just how many things fell through the cracks. But mostly it's coming down to me to being not enough planning, sloppy work by the Secret Service, and communication issues in which they could not talk seamlessly one to the other. 22 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock. You know, if you are cooking out this weekend or anytime soon, it's a good time to cook out this time of year, isn't it? How about trying out some of those flavors that you've enjoyed at the Legend Steakhouse? If you like them like I do, here's the thing. You can get these right on your very own grill. Just take a walk down your local grocery store aisles to places like Walmart's and Kroger and look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. He's got a proprietary blend that will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of other brands, so you don't have to worry about over-marinating. His honey mustard salad dressing is pretty good. South's favorite. It's used as just salad dressing or as a dipping sauce for your favorite chicken fingers, fresh-cut veggies, or chips. A recipe used in his restaurants for over 35 years. And if your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask him to do so. Just go to johnnyfleeman.com. That's johnnyfleeman.com. It goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or for dinner.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections. No lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Kamala Harris, she's on the campaign trail in the Keystone State, and the governor of that state was on the stage with her. Congress passing some legislation impacting the government's American flag purchases. And a Fox News host has been named as the keynote speaker for a Tennessee organization's annual convention. We'll have those stories for you at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 27 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. A little bit more on the assassination attempt and so what we're learning. Former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, he was the DNI back during the Trump years, at least for part of the Trump years, says that you need to understand that our enemies are watching what happened. And that's a serious concern.
Groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and others who watch this are sitting there thinking, gosh, we thought the Secret Service was 10 feet tall. We didn't think this was possible, but we just saw some 20-year-old living in his mom's basement who was able to pull this off. So is there an opportunity there that we're not taking advantage of?
And it's against the backdrop of what's happened on the border, where we know that millions of people, maybe 2 million people, have come into this country that we don't know anything about. And even those that we do know about, there were plenty of people who were found to be on the terrorist watch list. Some of them got into the country without knowing that they were on the terrorist watch list. And about those 2 million we don't know anything about, a good number of them could have been on a terrorist watch list. Listen to this. San Diego sector border patrol agents reportedly apprehended 3 suspected Palestinian terrorists after they illegally crossed the border between ports of entry. The suspected terrorists illegally crossed the Mexican border into California, according to a new report. Border patrol agents took 3 suspected Palestinian terrorists into custody. A source within the U.S. Customs and Border Protection told Breitbart, Texas, they could not confirm the report, but said it's highly likely information on special interest aliens, they call them aliens, is generally not disseminated outside of the sector originating the report, but it is sent on to higher ups at headquarters. The source believes the special interest aliens are being routed to crossing points in California after the Del Rio sector agents began performing extra background screening in coordination with the FBI. They believe that the California sectors are not currently performing that level of vetting. That's so scary. Listen, we know that people have gotten into this country. We know that there are people out there who have been probing and testing. Like they did at Quantico, where they tried to run a truck. And we still haven't heard much about that. Boy, has that story been shut down or what? You haven't heard squat about that in a while, have you? That's because whatever they did with those guys, they aren't talking about it. They understand how bad that looks to have somebody who came into this country illegally trying to enter a high-security zone like Quantico Marine Corps Base. So, I do worry about a sloppy and ineffective Secret Service at a time when there are terrorists out there who are sworn enemies of certain of our political figures like Donald Trump. I hope that the Secret Service gets its act together pretty quickly. Let's hope that they have. 30 minutes now past the hour.
Good afternoon. It's 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly cloudy. There's still a little bit of sunshine out there, here and there. 79 degrees. The latest traffic report and a weather forecast are coming up. Well, we've got 99 days to go until the general election for president. Kamala Harris, she's out on the campaign trail with rumored vice presidential pick Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro. They made an appearance together in Montgomery County, PA.
Kamala Harris's name is going to be on that ballot. And I, for one, am going to be pushing that button for Kamala Harris. I know you will, too.
An interesting story here where, flags made in the United States of America, that's going to be mandatory for government purchases of flags. We'll hear now from Daria Albinger.
Run this up the flagpole. Congress has passed a proposal requiring the federal government to buy only American flags that are completely manufactured in the United States. Many flags now flying coast to coast are made in China. The measure's sponsors, Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins and Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, say the measure will give American manufacturing a much-needed boost. The resolution applies only to flags that fly over government property.
Back here in Tennessee, Pete Hegseth, the Fox News host and Tennessee resident, he's been announced today as the keynote speaker at the Tennessee Firearms Association Legislative Action Committee's annual convention in September. The organization's convention will take place at the Farm Bureau Expo Center at the Wilson County Fairgrounds in Lebanon on Saturday, September 7th. Hegseth, he co-hosts Fox News and Friends on the weekends on Fox News. He's also a #1 New York Times best-selling author, and he does make appearances here from time to time on Super Talk. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Nashville Gold and Coin. Did you know that gold is up 78% over the last 5 years? Silver is up 99% in the same period. Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its value since 2020. You see, this government-induced inflation is stealing your wealth, and it doesn't seem that Washington has any plans to stop it. Gold and other precious metals are a great shield against that inflation. You know, during an election year, the politicians will promise that they'll rein in their spending, but you know how that goes. They can't help themselves. This is why no matter who is in office, gold protects you from the D.C. spending sprees. Where do you go to get that protection? Well, reach out to my friends Kyle and Hannah at Nashville Gold and Coin. They will take good care of you, keep you well informed on all precious metals opportunities. So act now and get your shield against out-of-control government spending. Go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com to set up your appointment today.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend. I am your radio buddy, and I am so glad that you're with us. Let's get you home safely, and so you can maybe watch some Olympics later, or listen to Mark Levin later, whatever you want to do. Either one of those is okay with me. I am watching the Olympics, and we'll get back into that again a little bit later. And I'll tell you why. I'm not afraid to say I'm watching the Olympics. All right. The president of the United States, the current president, you know who I'm talking about. Joe Biden, the lame duck, the angry lame duck. That duck sounds angry, doesn't it?
Yeah, none too pleased.
No, that's an unhappy duck. Well, anyway, Joe Biden is a lame duck now. So every time we mention Joe Biden, we're going to do that. So it may get old real quick. But what can he do? Well, he's going to go out there and stir the pot and try to make issues that will resonate well for Democrats. And so he travels from Washington, D.C. On Air Force One, and he goes to Austin, Texas, where he gives a speech about trying to reform the Supreme Court. Now, see, Democrats are not happy because, we got a 6-3 conservative court, and they want to change things. They want, term limits for members of the Supreme Court. They want a list of ethics that they should subscribe to, which I'm saying I'd be happy if all politicians would do that. Term limits. I mean, is there come a time when you're too old to be president? I think maybe we have just witnessed that that's true. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Can we get you to subscribe to the same level of ethics? So anyway, we have prepared for you. I don't know if we'll run all of this. It's about 3 minutes and 30 seconds to give you some sense of the argument, and I'll have a running commentary here.
I'm calling for a constitutional amendment called No One is Above the Law Amendment.
Well, there's a lot of people that Joe Biden is somebody who's above the law, right? I mean, after all, they found all of those classified documents right there in the garage next to his Corvette, and no charges are going to be brought because, well, he's too old and feeble, and we just can't do that. So they're not, so he's above the law. So he knows a thing or two about what he speaks, I guess.
And I mean this sincerely. It holds that there's no immunity for crimes former president committed while in office.
Okay, now this is all about the Supreme Court decision that says that a president has limited immunity, and the question is, about the classified documents case, does it apply to that? Now, what the Supreme Court actually said was that you have immunity for official acts, that you while you're president, you're covered. Unofficial acts, you're not covered, no matter whether you're president or not. Unofficial acts, if you're president or a former president, it doesn't matter. Unofficial acts, you're not protected. And what the lower courts are now trying to decide is what is an official act and what is an unofficial act. It is not that, you can get away with anything as president, but some things will be protected under the law, according to the most recent Supreme Court decision.
I share our founders' belief that the president must answer to the law. The president is accountable in the exercise of the great power of the presidency.
Unless you're Joe Biden.
We're a nation of laws, not kings and dictators. The decision can be boiled down to the title of one case, Trump versus the United States.
Yeah, see, this is it.
The court asserted it was making a ruling for the ages. That isn't true. The court made a ruling for one, a former president. No other president in our history has asked for this kind of immunity for criminal actions. And no president, no former president, not me, not one, has and should have been given any exception.
What?
To this, with such immunity. The second thing I'm asking for, we've had term limits for presidents of the United States for nearly 75 years after the Truman administration. And I believe we should have term limits for Supreme Court justices in the United States as well. In fact, the United States is the only major constitutional democracy that gives lifetime seats in their high court. Term limits would help ensure that the court membership changes with some regularity. That would make timing for the court's nomination more predictable.
I mean, he can barely get this out.
And less arbitrary. Reduce the chance that any single presidency imposes undue influence in generations to come.
Now, what they're recommending here is that there be a term limit of 18 years. And so, after 18 years, you have to rotate off and they have to bring somebody else new in. I don't know that look, it's not about how old you are. It's about how old you are in relationship to your ability to do the job. I mean, not everybody who's Joe Biden's age is suffering the way Joe Biden is. So, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's not. We've never had a problem in this country with lifetime appointments to the high court. But anyway, I digress. Let's listen a little more, see what other crazy things he said.
The bipartisan commission I convened analyzed various term limit structures.
Yeah. And by the way, he wasn't in favor of this when that report came out. Do you remember? The report came out, and he said they had all these recommendations, and he said that he didn't agree with it at the time. But now it's politically expedient to do so.
Based on their report, I believe the best structure is the 18-year term limit. That would help ensure the country would not have what it has now. An extreme court that's the product of an attack on the confirmation process that's been weaponized by those seeking to carry out an extreme agenda for decades to come. By the way, these guys mean it. These guys mean it. Project 2025 is real.
Oh, my gosh. Here we go again with this nonsense.
Mean it. Third.
Project 25 is not a Trump campaign document. It was put together by the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., and they're a think tank, ladies and gentlemen. They come up with ideas. They throw things out there. It is discussed. This is some ideas that they came up with and working with other think tanks around town. But it is not an official document of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has said he doesn't agree with all the things in Project 2025. But they keep throwing that out there as red meat to the left. Oh, well, it's in Project 2025. There's nothing in Project 2025 that will absolutely become law. Maybe an idea here or there, but not all of them. And there's no guarantee at all that will happen. But, they keep talking about Project 2025. I'm just sick of it.
I'm calling for a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court.
I would like to have a binding code of conduct for members of Congress. Let's do that first. Maybe we can do that.
Voluntary. Any code of Congress must be enforceable. Under the reform
Code of Congress, he said. He meant code of conduct.
I propose justice would be required to disclose gifts, refrain from public political activity, recuse themselves in cases in which they or their spouses have a financial or other conflict of interest.
Let me just say about this whole thing about vacations. I'm not wild about the fact that Supreme Court justices go on vacations paid by their billionaire or millionaire friends. But the conflict comes as if those people have a case that comes before the high court. Then you absolutely would have to recuse yourself. I know this person. We vacation together, those kinds of things. But, I mean, who's to say, that a member of the Supreme Court can't go on vacation with their millionaire friends and the millionaire friends pay because, quite frankly, they've got the money, and Supreme Court justices, relatively speaking, don't make that much money. So, I mean, I don't have as big a problem with that unless they have a case that comes before the high court. Then I say, well, we got a problem.
Most people don't realize that Congress passed a law decades ago that says all federal judges, including Supreme Court justices, have to recuse themselves in such cases. But the current justices insist on enforcing that requirement themselves without any public oversight or compulsion. See, that's their decision. They don't have to tell us how they made it. That might work if the court was actually enforcing those requirements, but they are not. The court is not self-policing. The court is not dealing with the obvious conflicts of interest. We need a mandatory code of ethics for the Supreme Court, and we need it now.
All right, so there's Joe Biden in Austin, Texas, and here's what you got to know about it. None of this is going to happen anytime soon, if at all. And this is what happens in an election year. Look, I mean, just think about it. Anything that the president wants is not going to get passed. Why? Because, well, we have Republicans in the House of Representatives that will stop it. That's it. That's the end of statement. It ain't going to happen. Now, what they're hoping for is that this is an issue that resonates with liberals, and they're going to get them to vote, go to the voting booth, because it's not only a referendum on who is the president, it's a referendum on how the Supreme Court might be filled in the future. I mean, they're really hacked off about the fact that we now have a 6-3 conservative majority. Here's the thing. I think that cuts both ways. I think we're enthusiastic about protecting that 6-3 majority. So I think our people are going to be absolutely enthused to go to the polls and not only vote for Donald Trump, but also to vote for continuing on the way we were, which means supporting Republicans that are running for the House and the Senate. Because if, look, here's the thing. I mean, we got a 6-3 majority now. If we win the presidency, and we can somehow wrestle back the Senate, which I think there's a fair chance we will, then we can nominate another. Because, I mean, it's very likely that during President Trump's next term in office, that some member of the Supreme Court will either die in office. I'm not wishing it, but I mean, it's just, look at the actuarial tables. They'll tell you they're old. Some of them are old. Or that they will submit their resignations. Now, if it's a conservative that submits their resignation, and the most likely conservative would be Clarence Thomas, who has served on the High Court for 33 years and is getting up there in age, but he's still doing good work and still asking questions. Yes, he even asks questions these days. Didn't talk for a long time, but now he's asking questions a lot. So he's there. So maybe that would be the one. But if it was a Democrat like Sonia Sotomayor, then, we could get a 7-2 conservative court. So we have a lot of reason to vote for the status quo as things are. So I don't know how it's all going to work out. You never know. But, I mean, one thing I would say is that, as enthusiastic as they think they may get, the Democrats may be enthusiastic about this idea of Supreme Court reform. And it may drive them to the polls and hope that they can actually implement it in the next administration. I think our side is just as enthused to keep things as they are, to protect Roe v. Wade and all the other things that have happened with that conservative Supreme Court. 51 minutes now past the hour. Eurofix has a very different business model. They staff all their locations with more than the average auto repair shop, just so they'll be ready when your emergency comes up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment for vehicle repair? Some dealers, well, you can wait more than 2 weeks just to get an appointment, but not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999, plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car now. Not 2 or 3 weeks from now. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car to the shop, call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we'll never be too busy for our customers. We are here to take their pain away now. Eurofix repairs all European cars, and Eurofix says yes to speedy repairs when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Let me talk about Grace Point Healthcare, known for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medical care delivered the old-fashioned way. And now, if you start thinking about going back to school with the kiddos and they need a sports physical, Grace Point provides complete physicals for kids of all ages. You take a late international vacation in the summer, or maybe you got a mission trip planned, Grace Point offers complete travel immunizations and is CDC certified for yellow fever and all other international immunization protocols. And this is the best part. This is the most important part. Because they will see you the same or the next day, you don't have to wait days or weeks to see a doctor. What good is having a doctor if you can't see them when you need them? That's right. Listen, modern medicine at your convenience. It's on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 615-599-6868. Again, 615-599-6868 to schedule your first appointment.
Good evening. It's 6 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got some sun peeking through the clouds, 81 degrees. The latest traffic report and a weather forecast are upcoming. President Joe Biden marking the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act signed into law by President Johnson back in 1964. He made an appearance in Austin, Texas this afternoon. But while there, he went political by using the podium to call for reforms to the Supreme Court. ABC's Karen Travers, she reports from Austin.
President Biden said he considered these proposals carefully, including a constitutional amendment so no president could be immune from prosecution.
We're a nation of laws, not kings and dictators.
The president said term limits for Supreme Court justices would make nominations more predictable and less arbitrary, reducing the chance that any one president imposes, quote, undue influence on generations. He also called the Supreme Court's current ethics code weak and voluntary and said it should be strengthened and made binding.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre today during her press briefing aboard Air Force One on its way to Austin asked to comment on President Biden's interactions with Kamala Harris since his address to the nation, where he pledged his support to the vice president.
The president strongly supports, obviously, his vice president and continues to look forward and working together as partners in the next 6 months as she continues her duties as well as vice president.
And since we are in the Lone Star State, Texas state lawmakers grilled utility executives over the slow response to impacts from Hurricane Beryl back in June. CenterPoint Energy executives at today's hearing facing questions about why the company wasn't as prepared as it should have been. More than 2 million people lost power after the Category 1 storm, and many waited for more than a week for their power to come back. State Senator Paul Bettencourt at the hearing today in Austin.
Makes my blood boil is the fact that we're having to have a hearing to hear about a whole bunch of people that did their job right. But the biggest multi-billion-dollar corporation, we're having to tell them how to do your job.
Officials say 14 of the 38 people who died in the storm died specifically because of that power outage. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
At 6:06, good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this 29th day of July. Let's get you home safely, and I'll try to spend some time telling you about what's going on in the world as best I can discern it. This is a time when there's so much news. You can't afford not to miss a single show here on Super Talk 99.7, so you can stay up to speed and you're not behind. I want to start off here this hour with something we don't do very often anymore. It's one of my favorite things. It's the crazy Democrat update. Oh, yeah, they're crazy, all right. Like bed bugs, they are. Yep, probably they are. All right. Here we go. This is about Nancy Pelosi, and this is about January 6th, and this is serious. For a long time, there have been these stories going around saying that, Nancy Pelosi was responsible for January 6th because she didn't do the right things to make sure the Capitol was secure. I mean, when you think of Capitol Hill, honestly, the Senate does things that the House doesn't do. I mean, it does confirmations of people on the cabinets. They do confirmation of Supreme Court justices. They have a different role. But over in the House, it has always been the case that the Speaker of the House is sort of the mayor of Capitol Hill. They run the complex, by and large. And ultimate decisions about the grounds of the Capitol are handled by the Speaker of the House. She has ultimate authority on the matter. She does it in consultation with whoever's the majority leader of the Senate, but ultimately it comes down to, the Speaker of the House. Well, Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House on January 6th, right? Listen to this story from justthenews.com. You're not going to hear this reported many places, but you're going to get it right here on The Drive. 2 top House security aides under then Speaker Nancy Pelosi got stark warnings from police the night before the January 6th riots that protesters might try to breach the U.S. Capitol through its tunnel system and block lawmakers from voting to certify Joe Biden's presidential election win, according to newly obtained memos and text messages. The documents obtained by Just the News also confirm that Pelosi's team played a role in the botched security planning on that fateful day. We have identified, this is a quote, we have identified numerous open source comments indicating groups' intentions of finding the tunnel entrances and confronting and blocking members of Congress. Capitol Police Deputy Chief Sean Gallagher wrote to the Deputy House Sergeant-at-Arms Tim Blodgett at 8:55 p.m. on January 5th, 2021, and an email that got forwarded overnight to Blodgett's boss, then House Sergeant-at-Arms Paul Irving. A second warning was sent that evening about possible threats to Supreme Court justices, and the sergeants at arms scheduled a briefing for Pelosi's then Chief of Staff, Terry McCullough. Terry, T-E-R-R-I, McCullough, the next morning, hours before the breach occurred, according to the messages obtained by the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee Chairman Barry Loudermilk. Congressional investigators believe the text and emails may explain why Pelosi, in a recently surfaced video shot by her daughter, Alexandra, who's something of a documentary filmmaker, as they were fleeing the Capitol on January 6th, why she claimed responsibility for security failures that day, despite her her claims later, I guess they came, that she didn't have any responsibility and didn't have any information. What do you believe? What she said when she was fleeing the Capitol? Or what she said later when she's trying to cover her you-know-what? Listen, I actually have that clip. It was released back in June, in which Pelosi is in her car and she's being rushed out of the Capitol complex as the Capitol complex is being invaded. And she's talking to her Chief of Staff, Terry McCullough, who's also in the car.
To know. We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? The National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with? They thought that they had sufficient resources. There's not a question of how they have. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more, because it's stupid that we should be in a situation like this, because they thought they had what? They thought these people would act civilized? They thought these people gave a damn? What is it that is missing here in terms of anticipation? If they give us a piece of paper, it says, walk through the tunnel, don't walk outside. That's our preparation for what's going on. Jesus.
So she says there that she takes responsibility, and she's saying to Terry, we have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more. So let's just talk about that for a moment. They got a briefing the night before. Donald Trump had already offered 10,000 National Guardmen, and she's asking why weren't the National Guards there? Well, she'd been offered 10,000 National Guards. It had gone through all of the security people and made its way back to the Speaker, and she said, apparently, through her chief of staff, to the people in charge of security, we don't like the optics of that. Yeah, they didn't like the optics of it, but they were warned. And they were warned the night before, and they could have done so. They could have made the call to beef up the security. Instead, they didn't. They didn't do anything at all. So let's just set that record straight. She was warned the night before, the morning of, and they did nothing. They didn't make any calls to beef up security around the Capitol complex. That's one crazy Democrat. Here's another. Pete Buttigieg this weekend, and he says, we were all aware of what was going on with President Biden. No kidding.
Meanwhile, we have a new nominee.
And was she aware of how he was doing?
We're all aware of how he's doing. Our country has watched our president lead. And yes, we've also seen the fact that he's 10 years older than he was 10 years ago.
Okay, so there's an admission by Pete Buttigieg. Some people are saying Buttigieg might be a running mate. I mean, I think Matt Murphy making that prediction. He said he admitted it's an off-the-wall prediction. I don't see it. But maybe he's right. Maybe that's why Buttigieg was out there. By the way, an unusual thing, Buttigieg goes on Fox News Sunday and speaks, and they make the statement that he is speaking as a private individual and not the Secretary of Transportation, which I think is sort of interesting. Kamala Harris, listen, we're gonna get a lot of old clips from Kamala Harris. I've got some doozies here. Here's Kamala Harris saying that.
And yeah, I am a radical.
She's a radical. We knew that.
And yeah, I am a radical.
Yeah, I'm a radical. She's completely happy to claim that she's a radical. When it comes to amnesty for illegal immigrants, she has long been in favor of finding a pathway to citizenship for the people who are here illegally. And that we're going to be reminded of that. Here's just one.
I intend to fight for a state that has the largest number of immigrants, documented and undocumented, of any state in this country, and do everything we can to bring them justice and dignity and fairness under the law and pass comprehensive immigration reform. Bring them out from under the shadows.
Yeah, bring them out from underneath the shadows. She's all in favor of that. She also, at one point, was asked shortly as we were beginning to withdraw from Afghanistan. She was on CNN and she was asked about, were you in the room? Because, she often said that she was the last person in the room when major decisions were being made. So she was there when Joe Biden decided to pull our troops out of Afghanistan, which ended, as you know, disastrously. But she was admitting before it became a disaster that she was actually part of that process.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do. And I'm going to add to that. This is a president who has an extraordinary amount of courage. He is someone who I have seen over and over again make decisions based on what he truly believes, based on his years of doing this work and studying these issues, what he truly believes is the right thing to do. And I'm going to tell you something about him. He is acutely aware that it may not be politically popular or advantageous for him personally. It's really something to see. And I wish that the American public could see sometimes what I see. Because ultimately, and the decision always rests with him, but I have seen him over and over again make decisions based exactly on what he believes is right, regardless of what maybe the political people tell him is in his best selfish interest.
All right, so how'd that decision work out for you, Joe? Afghanistan. Maybe the worst foreign policy decision made by a president in my lifetime. Everybody told him, Joe, Mr. President, you need to be careful here. You know, this thing could fall apart. Maybe we need to take it slow. Maybe we need to, think this through. No, Joe knew better. And Kamala was in the room, the last person in the room when he made that decision. It should have been Kamala who said, well, Mr. President, are you sure you want to do this? No, she didn't even raise. She's all on board. She's all on board getting out of Afghanistan. She thought that was the right thing to do. And it turned out to be one of the worst foreign policy decisions of any president in recent modern political history. I mean, everybody looks at that now and says it was such a disaster that it emboldened our adversaries on the world stage. Xi started acting badly in the South China Sea, and now he's acting badly, toward the Philippines. Putin looked at it and said, if the Taliban can run them out of Afghanistan, I got no fear of these guys. I'm going to go ahead and invade Ukraine. Everybody thinks, almost everyone agrees that the emboldened Putin came after he saw the disaster in Afghanistan. Remember those pictures, how horrible they were? The people died there during that whole process. And Putin was emboldened. Kamala Harris, was there in the room when that decision was made. She bears some responsibility, doesn't she? I think she does. And then Iran and North Korea, they act badly. Again, the world looked at what happened in Afghanistan. It was the beginning of the end for anything positive in Joe Biden's foreign policy. You could also say Iran would not have launched the attack against Israel if they'd had a healthy respect for Joe Biden and his foreign policy acumen. I think it was Bob Gates, former CIA director Bob Gates, I think, who said, if you want to know the right thing to do the opposite of whatever Joe Biden says is the right thing to do, and you'll come out okay. He has universally had he may claim to be a real expert, and he was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for a long time. But I got to tell you, his gut about foreign policy is 100% wrong most of the time. Well, it'd be all the time. 100% of the time would be all the time. It is. It's just horrible. If you want to know what the right thing to do is, just do whatever the opposite of whatever Joe Biden recommends. Remember, it was Joe Biden who told Barack Obama that we're not going to go after Osama bin Laden. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do it. And Obama said, no, we're going for it. We're going to get it. We're going to get him. He was wrong there. He's wrong every time he makes a recommendation. And so, again, believe me, Kamala is right there with him. 21 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Okay, let's talk about the good folks over at DT McCall's. They've been around in Middle Tennessee for more than a century, more than 100 years. Started out with one little store. Now they have 5 locations, and there's no doubt one of them is near you. Have you been to a DT McCall's? You really should go. It's really quite an experience. You go there, you find furniture. I mean, all kinds of furniture. You find appliances. What do you need? You need a bedroom suite. You need furniture for your living room. You need a couch. You need a an appliance for your kitchen, maybe a dishwasher or a stove or an oven or a refrigerator. They got them all. They got them all. You need something to work in the yard with, power tools? Well, I love my Cub Cadet mower that I got at DT McCall's. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. It's a beast of a machine, and I really enjoy mowing because of it. You need a gun safe? They got those too. Listen, you're never going to be messed around with when it comes to being honest. They'll give you a price, and that will include the delivery, the setup, and the haul away. They don't charge extra for that like the big box stores do. And whenever possible, they try to do business in Middle Tennessee with other Middle Tennessee companies. That's what you want. Find out about their 5 convenient locations by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A new report on Nashville crime has been released, and we'll have today's closing money news. That's on the way at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25, almost 26 minutes past the hour. Brian Wilson here. Listen, this is an interesting story about population growth in America. But what is really interesting is what it shows about how population has grown here in Nashville, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, etc. And it has to do with the growth of the population of white people in this state. Overall, the country's population grew by let's get what we're talking about here. In 2023, All right, we're talking about, this is relatively new census data information as these things go. There are about 334 million people in America. About 195 million of them are white people, according to the Census Bureau. And overall, during that time period, population grew by 1.64 million people. 3/4 of that growth came from Hispanic population, where births outnumbered deaths by a wide margin. And the greater Nashville metropolitan area, according to the Tennessean, saw the country's largest growth in its white population, which increased by almost 17,000 people, 16,858 according to the census. Now, the Nashville metro area, which in the census calculation includes Davidson County, Murfreesboro, and Franklin, had a population of about 2.1 million people in 2023, with about 31,000 people more from the year before. After we're seeing an influx of whites over other minorities, I think it is to do with the type of jobs and industries that are coming here, said Rainey Brown, who's an analyst of this kind of stuff. Tennessee has seen an influx of people from California, which could explain the growth in white population, said Ken Chilton, a professor of public administration at Tennessee State University. A lot of people are cashing out of California, selling their homes for a lot of money coming here. Nashville has been a main Tennessee destination for immigrating Californians, but Chattanooga's also seen an influx from the state. While real estate prices in Nashville have climbed, still a bargain compared to California. The median home price in California for any home, $942,000. While the median price in the metro Nashville area, big, large, all averaged in together, it's $575,000. Politics has also driven conservative-leaning Californians to Tennessee. I mean, I know that some Californians are coming here. I think we've known that for some time. I used to be very concerned about it, but it seems that most of the people that I hear coming from California came for the right reasons, because they just hated the liberal politics of California and wanted something much more conservative. It's an added bonus that, in fact, they can sell their homes in California, come here and live quite well by making the right investment. We've had a lot of California refugees from Orange County and some of the other places, they say. How about that? Very sad news locally for a lot of people here. 3 members of the Nellens, a Gospel Music Association Hall of Fame quartet, and the chairman of the board overseeing the Georgia Department of Corrections, among 7 people killed in a plane crash in Wyoming. The Nellens co-founder, Kelly Nellen Clark, her husband, Jason Clark, their daughter, Amber Nellen Chrysler, died in a crash Friday afternoon, according to a statement from another daughter, Autumn Nellen Streetman. She is the 4th member of the Georgia-based quartet. How sad this is. A great tragic loss for those who love gospel music. Our entire family is asking everyone to join us in praying for those who have been lost, for their loved ones and communities, and those throughout the gospel music community who've lost dear friends in this heartbreaking accident. Well, we echo those sentiments for sure. What a sad thing that is. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A mix of clouds and sun, 81 degrees, another traffic report, and a weather forecast are coming up. Right now in Nashville, a new study finding that most crimes in Music City are returning to pre-pandemic levels, except one. We've got more on the story now from News 2's Mark Kelly.
Well, a new study by the Council on Criminal Justice revealing that most crimes are returning back to pre-pandemic levels. The study collected data on 12 different crimes from Metro police departments across the country, and for the most part, the trend is consistent here in Nashville as well, except when it comes to homicides. According to Nashville police, homicide is 20% lower in the first half of this year compared to the same period last year. Motor vehicle thefts, though, are still rising in the Nashville metro. Meanwhile, shoplifting incidents appear to have only slightly increased in Nashville, but are not much higher than pre-pandemic levels.
Turning now to today's closing money news with Daria Albinger.
From ABC News Wall Street now, stocks closed mixed as we head into a busy week for the markets. The Dow was down 49 points at the bell. The NASDAQ up 12, the S&P up 4. We are in the thick of earnings season. Among the companies that will report this week, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta Platforms. A year after raising a benchmark interest rate, the most in a quarter of a century, the Federal Reserve is expected to signal this week that it's ready to lower borrowing costs as soon as September. Economists say that would be a momentous shift and a major boost to the economy. Fed rate cuts typically lower borrowing costs for things like mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. A single cut might not do too much, but historically it's led to a series of interest rate reductions. We may not be loving Mickey D's as much as we have in the past. Same store sales at McDonald's fell for the first time in 4 years.
That is the latest news, traffic, and weather. They are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Say, a question for you. Are your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes? Many hardworking Americans just like you could be overpaying on taxes in retirement. You could be taxed on your IRA, your 401k, and any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. Now, Beacon Capital Management is here to give you peace of mind. With the threat of massive tax increases just around the corner, your nest egg could be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax saving strategies now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis today. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Here's the number to call. 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. Or visit askbeaconnow.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It's 37 minutes now past the hour, 6 o'clock. We'll take it all the way up till just before 7 o'clock, and then we'll do the news, and then Mark Levin will be along, and he'll carry on throughout the evening, as he always does. I'm watching the Olympics, and I'm not ashamed to say so. A lot of people, a lot of conservatives, I have social media, they're saying I'm not going to watch the Olympics because of that thing that happened in the opening ceremonies where they did sort of, I don't know what it was, a drag queen version of the famous painting, the Last Supper. And you know what? I'm offended by that. I think it was wrong. It's clear that they were just trying to be provocative and offend, and I take offense. And I think it's wrong. And you say, well, then why are you watching the Olympics? Well, because our athletes had nothing to do with that. I support the young men and women of America who go over, and some of them not so young, who go over there and compete in these athletic events. They have spent their entire lives preparing for, these moments. And we have some tremendous, tremendous athletes, like Gretchen Walsh from Nashville, who, let's see, here's a story from WTVF. Nashville native Gretchen Walsh made waves on day one at the Paris Olympics, setting a new Olympic record while swimming the women's 100-meter butterfly semifinal. The 21-year-old completed the race in 55.38 seconds, breaking the previous record. She already holds the world record. She also won the silver in the 4x100 free relay. And so, she's there competing with her sister Alex, who will race on Friday in the 200-meter individual medley. They're from Harpeth Hall. I mean, I want to celebrate people like Gretchen Walsh, who had absolutely nothing to do. You could be mad at the organizing committee or for the group there in Paris that put on the opening ceremonies, and that's valid. Be angry at them, but don't take it out on our athletes. Well, NBC, I can't watch it. NBC apparently didn't know anything about this either. It's not fair. They bought the rights to cover the Olympics. It's an event of worldwide interest. I think they've done a pretty good job of doing it. I mean, I have some problems with the way their coverage has gone, but not many, but mostly just their quibbles. But I will say that it's not the fault of NBC. It's not the fault of our Olympic athletes. It's the fault of the people who put together the opening ceremonies, period. End of statement. Now, by the way, NBC is facing some FCC complaints. Apparently, the Judicial Watch has filed one. The French Catholic Church hit the opening ceremonies and were critical of it, saying it included scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity, and I agree. And by the way, it's a mockery of Leonardo da Vinci's painting, which, by the way, is not particularly historically accurate. It's a good painting, but I'm not sure it's historically accurate for a bunch of reasons. One reason, they're eating fish instead of lamb. They are portrayed as white Europeans, even though they should have been more Mideastern in appearance, wearing the wrong kind of clothes, sitting at the wrong kind of table. I mean, it's as you go on and on. There's a lot of inaccuracies in the painting, and I'm not upset about that. But I mean, I am upset with what they did, but I'm not upset with it enough to say I'm not going to watch the Olympics. That video, by the way, has been taken down. It can no longer be found, and the Paris Olympic organizers have apologized. I don't know if it's a real apology. We apologize for any offense taken. That's not really an apology, is it? We're sorry. It shouldn't have happened, is the correct apology. So I'm going to be watching that. Okay. Now on to some other stuff. 2024 elections. The numbers, I got to tell you, if you're looking at numbers, they have tightened. Now, I happened to hear a few moments ago, I happened to see during the commercial break, what Britt Hume has said, and I find myself in 1,000% agreement with what I said earlier. I think what's going to happen is she's in her honeymoon phase right now, and she's getting glowing coverage from the mainstream media. You know that's going to happen. You know that they this is what they wanted, so now they're going to back their Kamala, and so that's all going to happen. But she's not going to be able to run from some of the crazy things that she said. And so I don't think these numbers are going to hold, but right now they've tightened, and we have to be honest about it. It is tightened in a concerning way. Battleground from Fox, they have in a two-way race, Wisconsin, in a two-way race, Trump would win by 1. In a five-way matchup, which includes RFK and Westenstein, it would be a tie in Wisconsin. Michigan, it's a tie in the two-way. It's Trump +2 in the five-way. That's interesting, isn't it? In some cases, the five-way matchup helps Trump, and in some cases, it doesn't. I think that's sort of interesting. Pennsylvania, in a head-to-head matchup between Trump and Harris, it would be a tie. In the five-way, Trump wins by 2. Minnesota, they did a five-way. We don't have a two-way. Harris wins by 6. So Minnesota, it would seem, has reverted back to its very blue state status. Now that Harris has then, I mean, it seems like if there's another poll out there from KSTP TV station, Minnesota, Harris up by 10. So Minnesota may be out of the picture. And these battleground states have tightened. In the general election, I don't care too much about these numbers, but I'll give them to you anyway. Wall Street Journal, in the general election, Trump versus Biden. In the two-way, Trump wins by 2. In the five-way matchup, Harris wins by 1. These numbers are a lot tighter. But again, I'm not really concerned about it because I know she's not going to be able to run away from her history. She's not going to be able to run away from her past positions. And they are way outside the mainstream. Oh, they're going to try to tell you that she never really was the border czar. We all know better. We all know what she said in the past about being in favor of amnesty. So that's not going to wash. People know that pretty well. She is tied to the Biden administration's record, and she's tied to her own past statements. And I'm telling you, the Wayback Machine is just full of stuff, and it'll be coming out in dribs and drabs. And it's going to be, that will wear down support for her over time because it's just simply not in keeping with mainstream American political thought. J.D. Vance got into trouble when he said something about Democrats and their positions taken by cat owners who were childless or childless cat owners. And it was sort of a flippant remark about 3 years ago. And he's caught a lot of flack from Democrats, and especially from people who don't have children. And so Trey Gowdy gave him the chance this weekend to sort of clean that up.
I think you will agree with me that direct offspring are not necessary to be fully invested in the future of this country.
Of course not, Trey. I do think that being a parent actually has a profound effect on somebody's perspective, and we should honor and respect that. But there are a whole host of people who don't have children for a whole host of reasons, and they certainly are great people who can participate fully in the life of this country. And that's not what I said, Trey. If you look at what the left has done, they have radically taken this out of context and, in fact, aggressively lied about what I've said. What I do think is true, Trey, and this goes to the heart of what I was talking about 3 years ago in those comments, but it's going to be something I continue to talk about, is that the left has increasingly become explicitly anti-child and anti-family. They've encouraged young families not to have children at all because of concerns over climate change. They've suggested that people who do have children are somehow being selfish, when I think being a parent is actually the most selfless thing that you can do, and again, really does transform your perspective. So this is not a criticism and was never a criticism, Trey, of everybody without children. That is a lie of the left. It is a criticism of the increasingly anti-parent and anti-child attitude of the left. There's one more thing I want to say on this, Trey. I think a lot of parents and a lot of non-parents look at our public policy over the last 4 years and ask, how did we get to this place? How did we get to a place where Kamala Harris is calling for an end to the child tax credit? How did we get to a place where we were masking toddlers years into the pandemic? I think it's because we radically underrepresent the perspective of parents in our public discourse. I'm going to keep on calling that out because I think it's important for parents to have a voice, and I'm proud to be on the ticket with President Trump, I think a real defender of parents and families.
There you go. So there is his answer to all of that. I think he effectively we've moved on from that. Maybe we'll see how that goes. Trump was in Nashville, and he talked about to the Bitcoin people about Bitcoin not being a problem.
Those who say that Bitcoin is a threat to the dollar have the story exactly backwards. I believe it is exactly backwards. Bitcoin is not threatening the dollar. The behavior of the current U.S. government is really threatening the dollar. The danger to our financial future does not come from crypto. It comes from Washington, D.C. It comes from trillions of dollars in waste, rampant inflation, and open borders while giving welfare and free health care to all of the illegal aliens that are pouring into our country by the millions and millions and millions. It comes from printing hundreds of billions of dollars to fund endless wars overseas while our cities are like combat zones here at home.
There you go. He was in and out here in pretty short order. Did you see Trump Force 2? I mean, it's pretty cool seeing it land. And I like to end with something lighter because, you know, the news has been so heavy of late. And it's about Sam's Club versus Home Depot. Now, at Home Depot, if you know, it's a little early to talk about Halloween stuff, but Home Depot had this big 12-foot skeleton named Skelly. And I'm proud to say that I had a Skelly in my front yard during Halloween.
I was going to say, yeah, you were very familiar.
That's right. It's about 2-story tall. And you know, it's hard to find them. I had to find mine when I went on a beach trip, and I got it and dragged it back because I couldn't find one here. They go quickly out here. Well, here's the good news. The folks at Sam's Clubs have come up with a rival. That's right. It's Sam's Club has entered the market for giant skeleton decor. They've introduced a Members Mark 10-foot pre-lent skeleton arch, slightly different from Skelly. It has spooky red light-up eyes. Well, that's pretty scary. It's dressed in a flowing black robe. It's holding lanterns in both hands. And most importantly, it's more than a skeleton figure. It's an archway designed for trick-or-treaters and other visitors to walk underneath on their way to your front door. You have to walk through the black robe. That sounds pretty good.
That'll be a hot item this year, I bet.
Yeah, it's not all they're offering for Halloween. They've got all kinds of skeletons and animated stuff. I love doing that kind of stuff. I love it. I love Christmas, but I get a charge out of Halloween as well. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. United Structural Systems, you know they're the place to go for foundation repair. And quite frankly, the weather that we've had with the long stretches of rain, and then it gets very dry. Now it's raining again. That back and forth, that can really lead to foundation issues. So if you see the signs, you know, bricks cracking, walls bowing, doors or windows sticking. How about the stair-step cracks and masonry mortar joints, chimneys that tilt or lean a little bit? These are all signs. Call the folks over at United Structural Systems to come out and take a look at it. They can put you back in good order in short period of time. Also, if you have concrete that is sunken or sinking or tilted or it's got cracks in it, you should consider calling them out to look at and have them apply their Polylift system. Listen, it works really quickly. You can be done in a few hours. You can walk on it immediately, drive on it in 30 minutes. No unsightly patches or blemishes. And you don't replace it. You raise it because it's cheaper to raise it and fix it than it is to replace it with new concrete. Why would you spend all that money if you don't have to? 615-488-7855. That's the number to USS. You can find out more by going to the website, USSTN.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.